Chapter 511. While Wang Yu was still puzzled, Nian Luoyun reached out and grabbed Wang Yu's waist, pulling Wang Yu up from the ground. Then, Nian Luoyun leaned back, and Wang Yu was smashed into the ground head first. At that moment, a blue light flashed on Wang Yu's body. His internal energy surged, and the grab was dispelled. Wang Yu pushed Nian Luoyun's head with a thunderbolt cannon, using the momentum to flip backwards and land on ground. F***CK. Wang Yu was so shocked that he broke out in a cold sweat. What a vicious skill. If he was smashed, his skull would be smashed. Even more frighteningly, Wang Yu, who had been thrown once, discovered that Nian Luoyun's grab skill dealt extremely high damage. It was much higher than an ordinary throwing skill. Skills that had been verified by the system were truly amazing. At that moment, not only was Wang Yu breaking out in a cold sweat, but Nian Luoyun's expression was not looking good either. This back throw was his strongest skill, and it was launched very quickly. However, Wang Yu had forcefully broken it in this opening. This guy was far stronger than any opponent he had ever faced. Watching Fish's group was even more dumbfounded. As Nian Luoyun's friends, they naturally knew all about Nian Luoyun's skills, especially this back throw. Even the sixth apostle had been thrown into a daze, yet this Grandmaster of Combat had broken free. Of course, what surprised him the most was not just this, but the way Wang Yu and Nian Luoyun fought. Be it their skills or their mechanics, every move was as smooth as flowing water. There was not the slightest bit of mechanical feeling that ordinary players had when they threw out skills. It was even more shocking to watch and deal damage than the fancy special effects of the skills. Is this a battle between real Grandmasters of Combat? Watching Fish's underwater mumbled. He's so handsome. Why didn't I choose Grandmaster of Combat back then? A wizard beside underwater Fish drooled. The battle between the two fighters, Wang Yu and Nian Luoyun, could definitely be considered an epic battle in Rebirth. Although both of them were Grandmasters of Combat and did not have any flashy special effects, the sense of rhythm and the feeling of each punch hitting the flesh was fascinating to watch. Come on, I guess only these two gods can make a Grandmaster of Combat look so cool, the others said in disdain. That's right, although Wang Yu was their enemy, he had completely conquered them with his astonishing strength. The current Wang Yu wasn't just an opponent, he was also a god worthy of respect. A hidden class? Wang Yu took a step back, moving closer to the sacred snow lotus. He looked at Nian Luoyun warily. If it were just a grab throw, Wang Yu might think that Flowing Cloud had obtained a rare skill. However, Flowing Cloud's every move was a grab skill. This was a little suspicious. That's right, Catcher Strongman. Flowing Cloud said calmly. No wonder. Wang Yu realized. Catcher Strongman, as the name suggested, was a hidden branch of the Grandmaster of Combat that specialized in grabs and throws. Monks, who were relatively popular among fighters, were able to rise from a sewer class to the position of a sub-tank in one fell swoop precisely because they had several grab skills. On the other hand, almost every skill of a captor was a grab class. How terrifying was that? Of course, the damage of grab skills might not be too high compared to other skills. Moreover, grab skills were mainly used to grab and control targets. While grab skills might be useless in 1v1 PV battles, they were godlike existences in PvP and solo bosses. Flowing Cloud's family secret technique was also an extremely offensive fist technique. Combining the two into one, the current Flowing Cloud was much more difficult to deal with than expected. It was no wonder Flowing Cloud could lead a team to clear a faction dungeon with a 110% difficulty. Moreover, he had even led a team to clear monsters in Khaki Mountain. It turned out that he had obtained a class that specialized in PvP and crowd control. Even Wang Yu had nearly killed him in a moment of carelessness. No good, there's so many of us. Moreover, my class specializes in PvP. Leave these two holy lotuses to me, Flowing Cloud said. Although he did not say explicitly, Flowing Cloud's meaning was clear. You can't solo us, Wang Yu chuckled and said. That might not be the case. Your class is indeed very powerful in PvP, but I'll be fine as long as you don't hit me. You. Hearing this, Flowing Cloud revealed a displeased expression. Are you looking down on me? Flowing Cloud was also a martial artist and an expert of a younger generation. It was only natural for him to be competitive. Listening to Wang Yu's words, Flowing Cloud actually wanted to take on so many of them by himself. Moreover, Flowing Cloud could not even touch him. Not only was Flowing Cloud arrogant, but he was also looking down on others. No, no, no. I'm not looking down on you. I'm just saying that there's no way you can cooperate with me. Wang Yu casually raised his hand and threw a white dagger at Flowing Cloud. He then smiled faintly. If I'm not mistaken, you can't form a party right now. Otherwise, when they surrounded me just now, you could have attacked. Hearing Wang Yu's words, Flowing Cloud was stunned. As a Mount quest was a solo quest, players had to leave the party when picking the Snow Holy Lotus, and players couldn't form parties while in battle. Just now, when Yin Luyun had been forced to retreat by Wang Yu, Watching Fish Underwater had entered battle. Before Watching Fish Underwater and the others had left battle, Yin Luyun had entered battle again. No one had the time to form a party. The reason why Wang Yu threw the dagger at Flowing Cloud was to prevent Flowing Cloud from leaving the battle. So what if I am? My class advantage is not necessarily inferior to yours. Flowing Cloud gritted his teeth, stomped his right foot on the ground, and rushed towards Wang Yu again. Wang Yu chuckled and appeared behind Flowing Cloud in a flash. He extended his right hand and grabbed the back of Flowing Cloud's neck. With a soft kacha sound, Flowing Cloud's neck tilted and became stiff. Then, Wang Yu casually tapped on the Lingtai acupoint on Flowing Cloud's back. Flowing Cloud was imprisoned on the spot like a wooden figure. Yu, that's impossible. Nian Liuyun's expression became flustered. Wang Yu's pressure points had surprised Nian Luyun, but Nian Luyun was most surprised that Wang Yu had used the exclusive skill neck snapping. Wang Yu naturally knew what Flowing Cloud meant, so he calmly squatted down and picked the Snow Holy Lotus while saying, I just learned it from you. All rivers run into the sea. Extremely low chance of learning enemy unit skills in combat. This was the skill on Wang Yu's ring. It did not take effect even once in 100 years, but he had just stolen Flowing Cloud's neck snap. Nian Luyun was at a loss. No matter how hard he racked his brains, he could not imagine that Wang Yu would be so shameless. As Flowing Cloud was fixed next to the Snow Holy Lotus, the angle at which Wang Yu squatted was very tricky. Flowing Cloud was completely blocked by Flowing Cloud, so Watching Fish Underwater and the others could not attack. They could only watch as Wang Yu picked the Snow Holy Lotus. Chapter 512. Watching Fish Underwater and the others quickly turned around, only to see a group of giant glacier beasts crawling from the mountainside to the back of the team. F***CK. That's despicable. Watching Fish Underwater and the others cried out in unison when they saw this. They had thought that Wang Yu had already dealt with these monsters. Who knew that he would actually bring them up the mountain? The giant glacier beasts were huge and moved slowly. They would only move faster when they collided with others. These slow-witted fellows' aggro was so high that they could not shake them off even after traveling from the mountainside to the top of the mountain. Moreover, due to the aggro of these fellows, there were at least 20 giant glacier beasts along the way. Although Watching Fish Underwater and the others knew that the giant glacier beast's aggro target was Wang Yu, Nian Luyun was still there. If they really dodged, the one who would die would definitely not be Wang Yu. In desperation, Watching Fish Underwater could only give the order to attack. When Wang Yu saw Watching Fish Underwater and the others fighting the monsters, he chuckled and avoided the battlefield, taking the opportunity to leave the top of the mountain from the other side. As for Nian Luyun, Wang Yu did not need to worry about him. The duration of an acupoint seal was directly related to the acupoint. Although the Lingtai acupoint was one of the most important acupoints, the duration of an acupoint seal was only 10 seconds. By then, Nian Luyun would definitely be able to move again. Nian Luyun was a martial artist, and he had a hidden class that specialized in PvP. If it was not for Wang Yu's sudden teleport and neck snap, he would not have one so easily. No matter how weak the captive strongman was in PvP, Nian Luyun was much stronger than ordinary players. He could deal with these monsters with ease. Snow Holy Lotus. ice essence. Only 2 flowers can be picked at a time. After the first pick, it can be picked again in 30 minutes. Found be picked up, disappears on death. Glancing at the snow holy lotus in his bag, Wang Yu jogged down the mountain and went straight to the port. However, when he reached the port, Wang Yu was dumbfounded. Titan City was a border city. There were very few flights to and from Titan City. There were also not many flights out of Titan City. The fastest direct flight from Titan City to the Elven City would take at least 60 minutes. Moreover, the respawn time for the snow holy lotuses was 30 minutes. Damn it, Wang Yu finally understood. This mission was to force the players on both sides to kill each other. Otherwise, due to the flight problems, their lead time would be overtaken. Therefore, if they wanted to completely pull away from each other, they would have to kill their competitors. The past quest could only be completed once. If Wang Yu killed Nian Luyin on the mountain, Nian Luyin would completely lose the right to climb the mountain, which would result in the quest failing. However, in general, Wang Yu had a good impression of Nian Luyin. Every Grandmaster of Combat could only complete the Qinggong mission once. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Wang Yu did not want Nian Luyin to lose his qualification. At this moment, the players wandering around the port were the fans that Nian Luyin had brought with him. Titan City was a place with barren hills and unruly rivers, and the environment was harsh. The players had no desire to find a quest at all. Almost all of them were waiting at the port for Nian Luyun's return. Whether they were true fans of Wang Yu did not know, but Wang Yu knew that they definitely could not leave even if they wanted to. After seeing Wang Yu return, the players swarmed up to him. They had just heard that this was Iron Ox, so how could they let him go so easily? You're Iron Ox, right? How much of our god Lu Yun's strength do you think you have? 80 to 90%. I think less than 30%. After all, he was so scared just now, and had to rely on God Lu Yun to save him. As everyone had witnessed Nian Luyun's skills and were praised by the knight, Nian Luyin was undoubtedly the #1 expert in everyone's heart, while Wang Yu was the weakling who hid behind Nian Luyun and did not dare to move. Everyone surrounded Wang Yu and kept asking questions. Wang Yu suddenly felt a headache coming on. No wonder Nian Luyin had a bitter look on his face. As a public figure, it was really hard on him. Of course, facing this group of fanatical fans, Wang Yu could not be too serious. He could only find a place to sit down and pretend to look around. See that? He was poked in his sore spot. He's so scared that he doesn't dare to speak. The diehard fans said again, F***CKU. Wang Yu cursed in his heart. He simply closed his eyes and ignored them. Everyone knew that cursing was only interesting when both sides attacked each other. A one-sided speech was indeed boring. Seeing how thick-skinned Wang Yu was, everyone lost their interest and left the matter unsettled. However, there were a few people who insisted that Wang Yu did not let up. They pointed at Wang Yu and scolded Wang Yu for being despicable, cunning, and unworthy of his reputation. Wang Yu was annoyed by the scolding. He could not help but raise his eyelids. He suddenly realized that these 4 people were the people from the Unity Alliance whom he had kicked to death on the mountain. So it was all premeditated. No wonder. All right, you guys. Since you said I'm unworthy of my reputation, I won't bicker with you. In terms of being despicable, I'm not as despicable as you guys. Wang Yu said as he pointed at the 2 assassins who had lured the mobs to attack him. You still have a nerve to say that. God-flowing cloud couldn't bear to kill you, but you lured the mobs to attack him. Aren't you despicable? The 4 people shouted at the top of their lungs. The 4 of them were here to stir up trouble. They had long since prepared a set of words for Wang Yu. When they saw Wang Yu retaliate, they immediately used the lines they had prepared. Actually, there was nothing wrong with what they said. However, they were clearly the ones who lured the mobs first. Wang Yu was only using the mobs to attack them. He did not expect them to be so good at changing the topic. F***CK. You can say it the other way around? Wang Yu felt depressed. Wang Yu was not good with words to begin with. Now, how could he fight against 4 mouths, especially since these 4 mouths had come prepared? When the surrounding people heard Wang Yu treat their idol so despicably, they were all filled with righteous indignation. They formed a circle and pointed at Wang Yu and started cursing. If it were anyone else in Xuanzhen, They would not only not get angry after being cursed by so many people, but they might even feel smug. However, Wang Yu had not cultivated his shamelessness to such a level. Being surrounded and scolded by so many people, and moreover, being scolded by them, made Wang Yu extremely anxious. Enough! Don't scold me so crudely. Wang Yu suddenly stood up and glared at the four main culprits. The four naturally knew how powerful Wang Yu was. When they saw Wang Yu get angry, they were startled and took 2 steps back in fright. They said in a trembling voice, "There are so many of us. What are you going to do?" These 4 fellows were truly vicious. Just the phrase, "there are so many of us," was enough to tie everyone in the same boat. It seemed like watching fish underwater wanted to borrow everyone's strength to take care of Wang Yu. "It's fine. I'm tired of sitting. Let's just take a walk." After saying that, Wang Yu rushed forward. When the 2 tanks saw Wang Yu suddenly rushing over, they put their shields together and smashed them at Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled slightly. He did not dodge and was smashed into powder by the 2 shield bearers. Not good. It's a doppelganger. The 2 shield bearers turned pale with fright. At this time, Wang Yu had already leaped over the 2 shield bearers' heads. He stretched out his hands and grabbed the 2 assassins behind the shield bearers. His left hand grabbed their throats, and his right hand twisted their necks. Cracking sounds rang out at the same time. The 2 assassins were crushed into white light. The 2 shield bearers hurriedly turned around. At this moment, a spear appeared out of thin air and pierced through the 2 shield bearers. Chapter 5:13. Anyone who PK in public will be killed. A tall and burly Titan guard said coldly after stabbing the 2 shield warriors to death with a spear. Everyone was shocked to see this. F***CK. What the F***CK is going on? He clearly killed someone. Why didn't the guard kill him, but the other 2? Everyone was discussing, and they even ignored the fact that Wang Yu killed the 2 assassins in one move. It seems like he didn't attack first. Some observant players noticed something fishy. It was true that Wang Yu rushed over first, but Wang Yu didn't attack first. It was the 2 shield warriors who destroyed Wang Yu's doppelganger first. Therefore, when Wang Yu killed them, he was defending himself. He really is a despicable and shameless guy. After this analysis, everyone hated Wang Yu even more. At this time, the guard walked to Wang Yu's side and asked respectfully, "Honorable warrior, what can I do for you? Please keep them away from me." Wang Yu smiled bitterly at the guard. Wang Yu really didn't want to argue with these people. Not to mention that he couldn't win. Even if he did, it would be very embarrassing. F***CK, you must be dreaming. How dare you order the guard to chase us away? Do you think you're the Castellan? Some players heard Wang Yu's words and loudly mocked Wang Yu. However, after receiving Wang Yu's order, the guard really walked toward the crowd. Most of the players understood the situation. When they saw the guard walking over, they hurriedly retreated. However, the guys who mocked Wang Yu said, disapprovingly, "I didn't kill anyone. Why do you have to chase me away? Believe it or not, I'll swoosh." The guard had a determined expression as he swept the spear in his hand, and there were blossoms of white light. F***CK? He really killed people. Everyone was stunned, and cold sweat instantly appeared on their foreheads. Everyone was pushed back by the guard's murderous aura until they were forced to the other side. Finally, the guard drew a line on the ground with his spear and said coldly, "Those who cross the line will die." Everyone kept quiet out of fear and stood there obediently. To these normal players, the guard behavior was nothing short of supernatural. They were either new members of One Heart Alliance or Nian fans, and they weren't very familiar with the Watchers underwater group. Naturally, they wouldn't challenge the system's unusual settings just for 4 strangers. This stalemate lasted for a long time. Suddenly, 2 people came running from not far away from the port. One was a wizard, and the other was a grandmaster of combat. Wang Yu focused his gaze and saw that it was Nian Luyun and Watchfish underwater. "Huh, why are only the 2 of you back?" Wang Yu greeted them from afar. Nian Luyun was about to answer when Watchers underwater coldly said, "Ignore him. There's no good person in Chuanjin. He's asking even though he already knows the answer." F***CKU. Wang Yu was speechless. Wang Yu had always thought of himself as the only good person in Xuanzhen, and now he was being scolded by someone like Watchers Underwater, who had a stomach full of evil tricks. Nian Luyun still said, "The monsters surrounded us after you left. The others are walking the monsters on the mountain to let us return first." Wang Yu was speechless. Watchers Underwater added, "It's all your fault for not listening to me, and he tricked you. I've already told you, the people in Xuanzhen are a bunch of trash." Watchers Underwater was silent. This shameless guy. When Wang Yu saw that Watchers Underwater was trying his best to slander him in Xuanzhen, he was furious. Those monsters were clearly attracted by Watchers Underwater, yet this guy was trying to twist the truth. He was such a bastard. "What's going on now?" Watchers Underwater asked in confusion when he saw everyone watching from afar. A player who had joined One Heart Alliance from the beginning pointed at Wang Yu and said, "He told the guards not to let us pass." Underwater Fish gave Wang Yu a meaningful look, then said to Nian Luyun, "Do you see that? This kind of person would bully the good for his own selfish reasons. He's simply too despicable. Let me tell you, his friends are even more unscrupulous than him." Nian Luyun continued to remain silent. F***CK, this bastard. Wang Yu was completely shocked by Watchers Underwater's ability to confuse right and wrong. If this guy didn't get people to scold him, he wouldn't have ordered the guards to clear the area. In the end, he was the one who bullied the good. As expected, Nian Luyun was brainwashed by Watchers Underwater. He looked at Wang Yu with confusion, as if he couldn't believe it, but he couldn't not believe it. After all, seeing was believing. Wang Yu wanted to explain, but when he saw Watchers Underwater's sinister smile, he immediately gave up. After all, Wang Yu wasn't good at arguing, and the more he tried to explain, the more things would get messy. It was better to let Nian Luyun decide for herself. If Nian Luyun really couldn't tell right from wrong, then the way martial arts families raise their descendants really needed to be changed. Otherwise, in a few decades, when a bunch of people with high martial arts skills but low ability appeared, wouldn't the world be in chaos? Of course, thinking of this, Wang Yu first removed himself from the picture. After all, he had been in society for a few days, so he was naturally different from others. "All right, you can go back. Thank you." Wang Yu shook his head helplessly and said to the guards, "I'm at your service." The guards saluted Wang Yu and walked away. After knowing that Wang Yu could command the guards, of course, no one dared to trouble Wang Yu again. Although they were dissatisfied, they still stood behind the line and didn't dare to take a step forward. Watchers Underwater walked over with Nian Luyun and pretended to ask questions. Watchers Underwater was a smart guy. He only asked questions that were unfavorable to Wang Yu. As for his subordinates' discrediting of Wang Yu, he didn't mention a word. 3 people made a tiger out of a tiger. Under everyone's description, Wang Yu instantly became a despicable and lowly scum of society who killed innocent people. Watchers Underwater also described the incident of Wang Yu luring monsters and stealing things. Everyone's impression of Wang Yu changed drastically. Originally, everyone was in awe of Wang Yu as an expert, but now, in everyone's eyes, Wang Yu was 8B*TCH. Nian Luyun originally trusted Wang Yu's character, but now that everyone said that Wang Yu had done bad things, it couldn't help but shake Nian Luyun's image of Wang Yu in her heart. Looking at Wang Yu, who was sitting there and looking around, Nian Luyun's expression was very complicated. Suddenly, she felt that this person looked disgusting and behaved obscenely. Everyone gathered together and scolded Wang Yu again. It was time for the airship to start. Everyone boarded together, and Nian Luyun walked at the back. Wang Yu walked over happily. Just as he was about to say a few words to Nian Luyun said with a face full of disgust, "I originally thought that the Xuanzhen sect was not as bad as they said. Even if those people are bad, as a martial arts practitioner, you will have your own integrity. Now it seems that I was indeed wrong." Chapter 514. F***CK. You idiot. Wang Yu was not a scheming person and had a straightforward temperament. Moreover, he had been treated like a treasure since he was young. When had he ever suffered such injustice? When Nian Luyun spoke to him like that, he almost scolded her on the spot. Wang Yu gloomily mumbled to himself. He held his breath as he boarded the airship. This time, it was completely different from when he came. At this moment, Wang Yu was completely isolated. Everyone was looking at Wang Yu with a strange gaze, causing Wang Yu to feel even more depressed. F***, what an idiot. Caretaker Underwater had the power of public opinion. Wang Yu couldn't say anything. He had nowhere to vent his anger, so he could only complain in the guild channel. Huh? What's wrong with old cow? At this moment, Bao San suddenly asked. Wang Yu usually had a good upbringing. No matter what happened, he would always smile and rarely scold people. Bao San was surprised that he suddenly spoke in such a tone. I was angered by an idiot. Wang Yu angrily explained what had happened. Bao San said thoughtfully, this caretaker Underwater's behavior is so despicable. I feel like I've seen it before. Nonsense, it's a night of listening to spring rain. At this time, Mingdu popped up and scolded. Old cow, you're also trash. That son of a B***TCH treated you like that, and you still haven't killed him? I'm not in the right. Wang Yu said gloomily. Wang Yu was a very reasonable person. Although caretaker Underwater was framing him, the evidence was conclusive. If Wang Yu killed someone, it would be even more difficult to explain. Is there a need to reason with someone like that? Smashing him to death with a brick is the basic quality of a normal person. Hearing a night of listening to spring rain, not only Ming Du, but also to place one's pride and Ming Jian Daoxue also popped up. That's right. Uncle Niu, let me tell you, this bastard is very shameless. Even Wu Ji isn't as shameless as him. Just kill him if you see him. There's no need to talk nonsense. To place one's pride said excitedly. It can't be. He's even more shameless than Wu Ji? Isn't that a bit too much? Bai Ming Yoyu and Second Elder Yin were both newcomers. Although they had heard of the story of a night listening to the spring rain, the two of them had been in the Quanjin sect for a long time, and they knew Wu Ji's character very well. To say that he was even more shameless than Wu Ji, they obviously didn't dare to believe it. It's not an exaggeration. The two of them are almost the same. Wang Yu said with certainty. To be honest, although Wu Ji was shameless, he respected the truth in everything he did. At most, he would secretly change the concept to make the people involved misunderstand. As for Caretaker Underwater, it was a classic case of confusing right and wrong. One focused on psychological attacks, while the other ignored the truth. In terms of shamelessness, it was hard to tell who was better. Wu Ji said with a dark face, F***CKU. I'm still here. Everyone hurriedly shut up. Wang Yu changed the topic. If you were in his shoes, what would you do? Of course, kill the instigating trash. Wu Ji said, don't use personal emotions as a factor. Senair, what do you think? Wang Yu asked Bao San. Bao San was an honest person. His suggestion was the most reliable in such situations. Kill him. There's nothing wrong with that. Bao San said coldly. If I kill the innocent, will others think that I'm not a good person? Wang Yu asked in a dilemma. Young man, Chun Xiang sighed and said, do you think they will think that you are a good person? Wang Yu looked up at the people opposite him and then replied, no, that's it. There's nothing wrong with killing him. Everyone said in unison. Wang Yu suddenly felt that what Xuanjin said made sense, but he still felt that something was wrong. However, at this time, Wu Ji said, all right, just ignore him for now. Yeah. Hearing Wu Ji's words, everyone was stunned. Xuanjin had played the game for so long. The only opponent that they really wanted to kill was Caretaker Underwater. At this time, Wu Ji actually asked Wang Yu to let him go. This did not seem to be Wu Ji's style. Right, will you get off the airship later? Wu Ji asked Wang Yu. Elf City, I understand. Don't kill him. Wu Ji reminded again. Wang Yu was speechless for a moment and then said, okay, I understand. On the airship, Caretaker Underwater gathered everyone together and started a rumor again. However, this time, he wasn't talking about Wang Yu, but the people of Xuanjin. Xuanjin had never had a good reputation. This was something everyone knew. At this time, Caretaker Underwater described himself as a hero and embarrassed Xuanjin in various ways. He even said it with eyes and ears. Everyone applauded when they heard it. Even Wang Yu couldn't help but laugh when he heard it. Thus, he decided to relay it in the guild channel. Bullsh asterisk T. Hearing caretaker underwater shamelessly bragging about himself, Chuanjin was about to emit smoke. Only Wuji said indifferently, "Let him be arrogant for a while. He will cry later." One had to share one's frustrations with others. Seeing that the Chuanjin people were also scratching their heads in anger, Wang Yu's previous resentment had dissipated quite a bit. However, underwater watching fish said something else, which made Wang Yu so angry that his nose became crooked. That iron ox and the scum of Chuanjin are jackals of the same tribe. Wang Yu suddenly stood up and glared at caretaker underwater. "Just you wait. What? You want your friends to go to Elf City to stop me? Don't you Chuanjin like to do this?" Caretaker underwater said in a strange tone. Hearing caretaker underwater's words, Wang Yu was slightly stunned. "Wuji didn't let me kill this guy. Is he really going to stop me personally?" Seeing that Wang Yu didn't speak, Nian Luyun stood up and stared at Wang Yu. He said coldly, "As long as I'm here, you scumbags won't even think about touching a finger of my friend." Hee hee. Wang Yu tilted his head and glanced at Nian Luyun. He said with a smile, "With just you?" Wang Yu also knew that Nian Luyun had been fooled by caretaker underwater, but this kid had humiliated Wang Yu again and again. Wang Yu wasn't someone who was meek, so he ridiculed him on the spot. Nian Luyun's face turned pale from Wang Yu's ridicule, and his fans couldn't stand it anymore. They pointed at Wang Yu angrily and shouted, "F***CK, why are you pretending? God Luyun, go, beat him to death, and let him know how powerful you are." Nian Luyun's face turned green and white. He opened his mouth, but in the end, he sat back helplessly. If it were in the past, Nian Luyun would still have some confidence to win against Wang Yu. But just now, Wang Yu pointed at Nian Luyun in one round, making Nian Luyun truly feel the horror of Wang Yu. Although Nian Luyun was unprepared just now, if they really fought, Nian Luyun still had no confidence at all. Chapter 5:15. Genius 1 Second. Remember, if you want to go. The internet provides you with exciting novels to read. When the fans saw Nian Luyun's reaction, they all looked disappointed. Underwater Fish pointed at the guard beside Wang Yu and said, "Humph, you're just using your connections to intimidate others. Our flowing cloud will not fall for your tricks." F***CK, this shameless guy, is he trying to use the guards to trick people again? Everyone was still unhappy about Nian Luyun's retreat, but when they heard what she said, they immediately turned to Wang Yu. Wang Yu turned his head to look at the guards and spread his hands helplessly. This underwater fish was really good at making use of every opportunity. No wonder the people from Chuanjin said that they couldn't talk to him. His ability to invert right and wrong was too strong. At this time, the airship had already flown out of Titan City. Wang Yu's main city privileges had expired. With the guards around, the airship was a safe zone. Faced with everyone's disdain, Wang Yu couldn't do anything. As for those people, of course, they didn't dare to come up and court death. They could only say whatever they wanted. Fortunately, the airship was not slow. After 40 minutes of suffering, it finally landed in Elven City. As soon as the airship landed, Underwater Fish said to Nian Luyun, "Be careful later. Those people from Chuanjin are despicable and shameless. They will definitely arrange people to surround us here. When that time comes, you just need to do your mission. We will help you block them. Yes, we will always support you." At the same time, they cast admiring glances at Underwater Fish. He was wholeheartedly thinking of his subordinates. Such a good guild leader was hard to find even if one had a lantern. Wang Yu, a bystander, saw that these fans had been fooled to the point of risking their lives. She hurriedly sent a message. "You guys better not come. They have quite a lot of people. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of you guys. F***CK off, bitch." When the people from Chuanjin heard this, they all cursed. Although what Wang Yu said was the truth, it was too hurtful to say it so bluntly. Wuji replied indifferently, "This kind of small matter doesn't need us at all. You're thinking too much." "Oh, really? The fish in the water are even dirtier than you. Why are you always comparing yourself to me? Just watch the show," Wuji said angrily. Because the Elven City was a huge, ancient tree, there was no dedicated airship port, so the airship landed in the open area outside the Elven City. Because they were not in the city, there were no guards at the landing point. Once they got off the airship, they would be in an unsafe area. Of course, watching fish in the water knew the power of Chuanjin. Even though he had successfully fooled a large group of people to protect him and Nian Luyun, he dared not be careless at this moment. The moment he got off the airship, he had been looking around vigilantly. Nian Luyun kept his eyes on Wang Yu as he was afraid that Wang Yu would launch a sudden attack. Wu Ji told Wang Yu to wait and watch the show. Of course, Wang Yu would not make the first move, so he crossed his arms and stood not far away from the team, ready to watch the show. The airship landed in a leveling area outside the city. The Elven City and Thunderstorm City were both special main cities. Thunderstorm City had many mages, while the Elven City had many archers. At this time, many players were retreating and kiting monsters. Suddenly, a girl retreated to the side of watching fish in the water and bumped into him. Archer's kiting was very particular about positioning. To be able to bump into someone while kiting was probably extremely stupid. Watching fish in the water was already on tenterhooks. After being bumped by the girl, he panicked on the spot. You? Watching fish in the water was about to scold her, but then he remembered that so many people were looking at him and that the girl was pretty, so he quickly changed his words. Are you okay? No, I'm fine, I'm sorry. The girl hurriedly apologized. It's okay. Watching fish in the water revealed a smile that he thought was very charming. Huh? President Liu? After the girl raised her head, she suddenly cried out. You know me? Watching fish in the water asked in surprise. When watching fish in the water became famous, it was still a keyboard and mouse game. Other than friends in the circle and some core members of the guild, there weren't many people who had seen watching fish in the water's true appearance. Even the people from Chuanjin had never seen watching fish in the real world before. However, this girl recognized watching fish in the water at a glance, which really surprised watching fish in the water. I'm Lil Dream. Dream Assassin. I used to play Assassin. Did you forget? I saw you at the guild's annual meeting. I didn't think I'd be able to see you again in my lifetime. The girl said excitedly. Oh. Watching fish nodded repeatedly. What little dream? Watching fish in the water really didn't remember. However, at that time, watching fish had over 100,000 people under him, and there were hundreds of core members. Moreover, it had been so many years, it was normal for a few people to not remember. Do you have a guild? Watching fish in the water asked Lil Dream. What watching fish in the water currently lacked the most were subordinates. Since Little Dream was an officer under him, watching fish was very happy to recruit her. Not yet. Little Lou, has boss established another guild? I've been with you and fought in big scenes. I don't feel anything if I join a small guild, Little Dream said with a hint of bitterness in her tone. When the other players heard Little Dream's words, they all asked in confusion, what guild did guild leader watching fish form in the past? Watching fish? Little Dream was confused. My current guild is called Watching Fish in the Water, Watching Fish said. Oh, Little Dream came to a realization. Then, she said to the others, no way. You guys have followed guild leader Watching Fish for so long. Yet you guys don't know his true identity? Little Dream, Watching Fish hurriedly waved his hand, indicating for Little Dream to keep a low profile. After all, if a large guild was to be destroyed, it would be called not judging a hero based on success or failure. If one were to put it bluntly, it would be like a stray dog. The difference between the glory of the past and the current dire situation was too great. Therefore, Watching Fish in the Water rarely used this name to recruit players. True identity? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard this. Could this loyal guild leader be a famous person? Little Dream ignored Watching Fish's gesture and said proudly, have you heard of the Three Fiends Manor? Three Fiends Manor? Everyone was stunned when they heard this. The Three Fiends Manor was a legend in the industry. Did they know that the Three Fiends Manor had played online games before? Yes. Everyone nodded. Guild leader Watching Fish was the boss of the Three Fiends Manor. Little Lou listens to the spring rain at night. Little Dream said as she pointed at Watching Fish in the water. Holy sh**t. Are you for real? Everyone turned to look at Watching Fish in the water. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. A legendary character was so close to them. It was as unbelievable as meeting Andy Lau on a public bus. It's all an empty reputation, an empty reputation. Watching Fish laughed dryly and declined to comment. Although he was a little ashamed to mention the past, he had to admit that he felt a little smug when he saw everyone's reaction. Chapter 516. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. What nonsense are you spouting? What woman? The fish in the water glared at Xiao Meng fiercely, signaling her not to talk nonsense. Xiao Meng turned a deaf ear and said, "Isn't it that Duguling? What's there to be embarrassed about? It's normal that you don't want that kind of female loser. Look at her crying, throwing a tantrum, and trying to hang herself. I'm sick of it." When the surrounding people heard Xiao Meng's words, they were all stunned. All of them pricked up their ears, afraid that they would miss a word. On the other hand, Wang Yu scorned Wuji in the channel. "Is this the way you came up with to smear the name of underwater fish? That's too low end. I won't fall for it." Unexpectedly, Wuji said coldly, "I didn't defame you. This is the truth." "Truth? Is this for real? There's really someone called Duguling?" Wang Yu said in surprise. "Duguling." Bai Ming Yoyu and Yin Lao suddenly said, "This name is quite familiar. Isn't he the one who discussed marriage with Xiao Lu at one night, listening to Spring Rain, and then divorced within 2 days?" "That's right. At the same time, she was also the founder of Qiuanjin and the first president of Qiuanjin." Speaking of Duguling, the usually frivolous Mingdu's tone became serious. "Could it be that Three Evils Manor is really—" Bai Ming Yoyu said in shock. As a famous professional player, it was impossible for her not to know about Three Fiends Manor. There were rumors in the game that Qiuanjin had single-handedly destroyed Three Fiends Manor. After staying with Qiuanjin for a long time, Bai Ming Yoyu had to admit that the people from Qiuanjin were capable, but it was impossible for a small group of a few people to not be able to destroy a large guild with hundreds of thousands of people. Love, go, small, say, Netku. It had to be known that Bai Ming Yoyu had personally experienced the terror of a major guild. Wuji smiled and said, "You can say that. It's mainly because of the poor character of the fish in the water. Hypocrisy will be exposed one day." Apart from the two parties involved, no one dared to draw a conclusion as to whether or not Qiuanjin was behind the Three Spirits Village. However, when it came to a night of listening to Spring Rain in a small building in Duguling, it was the most popular topic among the veterans of the game. Anyone with a little gaming knowledge would know that a night of listening to Spring Rain and Duguling were a famous couple. When they got married in the game, even the GM was shocked. The officials booked the entire venue and did a video promotion. This was something that everyone was extremely envious of, and the two of them became publicly recognized as the #1 couple in the game. However, it was said that a few days after the couple got married, Duguling left the gaming circle. Many people said that a night of listening to the Spring Rain was using Duguling to create hype. Whether that was the case or not, it was just a rumor. In any case, not long after, Three Spirits Village suddenly announced its disbandment, and a night of listening to Spring Rain seemed to have evaporated from the world, never to be seen again. As for why a mythical guild suddenly collapsed, it became an unsolved mystery in the gaming circle. Those who knew about Three Spirits Village were too embarrassed to talk about it. Hearing the veteran of Three Spirits Village, Xiao Meng, mention Duguling, everyone's gossipy spirit was instantly ignited. Even those who weren't interested in the grudges of the world couldn't help but be excited when they heard such a big piece of gossip. "Right, Flowing Cloud. Aren't you going to do a quest? Hurry up, or else someone else will beat you to it." Underwater watching fish began to change the topic. If it was someone else, underwater watching fish could still argue, but Duguling had caused a huge commotion, especially since underwater watching fish himself had tacitly agreed that Xiao Meng was a veteran of Three Spirits Village. If he continued to confuse right and wrong like before, it would be an insult to everyone's intelligence. In front of such a big piece of gossip, Nian Liuyun's cohesiveness suffered an unprecedented blow. The fans ignored underwater watching fish's change of topic and asked Xiao Meng, Continue. Forget it. Let's not talk about it. Xiaomeng paused and said, That woman is just making a mountain out of a molehill. It's just a stabbing love. They're already husband and wife. So what if she gave it to the guild leader? Stabbing love? Holy sh**t. Is that the number one divine weapon in world martial arts? Everyone exclaimed. Underwater watching Fish's expression kept changing. He stared at Xiaomeng and said, You're definitely not someone from Three Spirits Village. Tell me, who sent you to purposely discredit me? Discredit? Guild leader, what are you talking about? I'm someone from Three Spirits Village. Xiaomeng pretended to be terrified and said, I used to work under the boss of Three Mountains. Why don't you call him over to testify? The boss of Three Mountains that Xiaomeng mentioned was the guild leader of China's largest guild, 9 States Empire, 3 Mountains, 5 Peaks. He was currently the number 1 player in the game. Of course, watching Fish underwater did not believe that Xiaomeng really knew the 3 Mountains, 5 Peaks, but what Xiaomeng said was true. The 3 Mountains, 5 Peaks were famous for being upright. Furthermore, the weight of the 3 Mountains, 5 Peaks words was much greater than Xiaomeng's. If they provoked the 3 Mountains, 5 Peaks and exposed this matter, watching Fish underwater would probably lose his reputation again. Thinking of this, underwater watching Fish did not waste any time. He raised his staff and struck Xiaomeng with a chain of lightning. No matter what, underwater watching Fish was still an expert, and Xiaomeng was just a fragile archer. The people who were training here were not very high level, so how could she withstand underwater watching Fish's lightning? Just as Xiaomeng was about to be killed, a white light swept over and pulled Xiaomeng to the side, dodging underwater watching Fish's chain of lightning. Fish, are you trying to silence me? Wang Yu asked underwater watching Fish with a sneer as he grabbed the pale Xiaomeng with one hand. When the players beside Watchful Fish saw Watchful Fish suddenly attacking Lil Dream, they were puzzled. However, when they heard Wang Yu's words, they understood what was going on. They looked at Watchful Fish suspiciously. When underwater watching Fish saw the glorious image he had painstakingly built suddenly crumble, he immediately panicked. Damn it, you're messing with me. Underwater watching Fish coldly snorted. He pointed the staff in his hand at Wang Yu 3 times and then chanted, Endless lightning descend. As underwater watching Fish chanted, 3 bolts of lightning struck down at Wang Yu from above. It was only 3 bolts of lightning. To tell the truth, Wang Yu didn't take them seriously. Wang Yu grabbed Xiaomeng with one hand and was about to dodge when the 3 bolts of lightning suddenly exploded, turning into electric currents that covered an area of 3 meters around Wang Yu. The instant the lightning exploded, Wang Yu's expression tightened. He flung his hands and threw Xiaomeng out of the spell's range. Then, Wang Yu was devoured by the endless lightning. Endless lightning was watching Fish underwater's final epic skill. It was the prerequisite for the thunder spell's ultimate skill, Vigorous Thunderclap. Its might was second to none at the current stage of the game, and it could even reduce a tank to a pulp. The only drawback was that there was a small prerequisite when the lightning exploded, so it could only be used to catch people off guard. Wang Yu didn't know about this spell and thought it was a strengthened version of Thunder Spell. Moreover, he was trying to save Xiaomeng, so he was hit head-on. Chapter 517. Genius 1, Second Remember Love, Go Away? We provide you with exciting novels to read. Listening to Guild Leader Fish's words in your usual narrative style, if this girl wasn't slandering you, would you kill her to silence her? As Fishwatcher spoke, a familiar voice rang out behind him. Fishwatcher's pupils constricted, and his complexion turned extremely pale. How is this possible? Fishwatcher turned his head and saw Wang Yu smiling at him with his arms crossed. The HP bar above his head did not seem to have decreased in the slightest. I clearly hit you. Could it be a clone? Impossible. I saw white light. Fishwatcher pointed at Wang Yu in disbelief. As an expert, Fishwatcher definitely could tell the white light of death from the destruction of a clone. However, Wang Yu was still standing there, and Fishwatcher was completely confused. Wang Yu laughed and said, To think that you're a mage. Don't you know that the light of Flash is also white? Fishwatcher, For a moment, he was so engrossed in his excitement that he forgot that Wang Yu could also flash. So what? Underwater Watcher shouted. He pointed the staff in his hand at Xiao Meng, and lightning condensed. Watching Fish and Yin Luyan had stayed in the water for a long time. They knew that martial arts practitioners were almost pedantic about their principles. Therefore, as long as they killed Xiao Meng now, Wang Yu would still have a way to deal with her. You're courting death. When Wang Yu saw that Fish Watcher was stubborn and still harbored malicious intentions, he simply sent a chi wave at him, wanting to kill him instantly. However, at this moment, a figure suddenly rushed over, standing between Wang Yu and Fish Watcher. It was Nian Luyan. Nian Luyan formed a claw with one hand and casually crushed the chi wave. Ha! Wang Yu's chi wave was crushed. Wow. As expected of God Flowing Cloud. So amazing. Although the surrounding players were no longer interested in fish watching underwater, they were still fans of Flowing Cloud. When they heard how Flowing Cloud had casually countered Wang Yu's attack, they all cheered excitedly. Your opponent is me. Nian Luyan placed her hands in front of her and got into a fighting stance. Wang was also slightly taken aback. As a class that specialized in PvP, almost all of its skills were grab skills. Their priority was much higher than that of punishment paladins. Chi Wave was only a low-tiered skill. In addition, Wang Yu rarely used it, so his proficiency with it was extremely low. Hence, it was not surprising that Flowing Cloud had casually shattered it. The only reason why Wang Yu was surprised was because he could not understand Flowing Cloud's actions. If it had been before, it would have been normal for Nian Luyan to do this. But now that his true face had been exposed, it was a little unreasonable for Nian Luyan to still help him. Are you still helping him? Using such a thing to smear fish watching underwater? Isn't your method a little too low-level? Nian Luyan said coldly. Nian Luyan was also a newbie in the game. Of course, he didn't know about the gossip from a few years ago. He didn't feel anything when he heard about Dugeling and watching fish underwater. Coupled with the bewitching effect of watching fish underwater, Nian Luyan already had a preconceived notion that Wang Yu was a shameless person. Therefore, at this time, Nian Luyan naturally chose to believe watching fish underwater. Idiot! When Wang Yu heard Nian Luyan's retard, he was rendered speechless. Immediately, he said coldly, "Are you sure you want to offend me? Fish watching underwater is a good friend of mine. If you want to deal with him, you'll have to get past me first. All right, then go with him." Wang Yu's eyes turned cold as he charged at Nian Luyan with collapsing fist. Crap, it's starting. The two experts are finally going to fight. At the same time, the surrounding Nian Luyan's fans all widened their eyes. The two grandmasters of combat had been crowned as gods one after another, but there was no real data on their fights, so it was still a mystery who was stronger between the two. Fans of the two fought at least 100 times a day, all for today's battle. Unfortunately, everyone present today was Nian Luyan's fans. Everyone supported Nian Luyan. After all, Nian Luyan had just casually shattered Wang Yu's skill. This kind of judgment was very rare between the same profession. Come on, Catapult Strongman was good at defending instead of attacking. Seeing that Wang Yu had made the first move, Nian Luyan blocked with both hands in front of him, aimed at Wang Yu's fist, and suddenly grabbed forward, trying to catch Wang Yu. Wang Yu smiled slightly. Suddenly, he canceled the skill and bent down to perform a leg sweep version of Thunderstomp. His right leg flashed with electricity as it ruthlessly swept across Nian Luyan's leg. When Nian Luyan's hands moved forward to make a grab, his lower body was bound to be unstable. The priority of Wang Yu's Thunderstomp was something even the sixth apostle could not handle, let alone a grandmaster of combat like Nian Luyan. With just one kick, Nian Luyan was kicked to the ground by Wang Yu. If not for the fact that he was immune to damage when making a grab, Wang Yu's attack power would have killed Nian Luyan with one kick. How did this happen? When the surrounding fans saw Nian Luyan, the god in their hearts, fall to the ground, their jaws dropped. Nian Luyan clearly had the upper hand just now. How did the tables turn so suddenly? Must be a coincidence. It must be, no matter what, the fans were unwilling to believe the truth before their eyes. He didn't die. He's quite tanky. Wang Yu was stunned for a moment as he stared at Nian Luoyun. Clearly, Wang Yu did not know that the grab was immune to damage. Oof. Nian Luoyun snorted coldly. He did a quick recover and crouched on the ground. Immediately after, Nian Luoyun pushed off with his hind legs, pressed his hands against the ground, and charged at Wang Yu. What kind of move is that? Wang Yu was puzzled. A handsome guy like Nian Luoyun was on all fours. The scene was too strange. As he spoke, Nian Luoyun's body suddenly accelerated and crashed into Wang Yu. At the same time, Nian Luoyun grabbed Wang Yu's waist with one hand and spun in midair. Wang Yu immediately felt an irresistible force. In the next moment, Nian Luoyun lifted him up with one hand and smashed him to the ground. Lion catches rabbit, pounces and grabs the opponent at extreme speed and smashes the target to the ground, dealing massive damage. Exclusive skill for wrestlers. Phew! Nian Luoyun's fans let out a long sigh of relief when they saw Nian Luoyun turn the tables again. As expected, God Luoyun is the strongest. F***CK. Being grabbed, Wang Yu could not withstand it. This smash took nearly half of his HP. Almost at the same time, Nian Luoyun followed closely behind. He grabbed one of Wang Yu's ankles and raised his leg to stomp on Wang Yu's crotch. Wang Yu was shocked. His internal energy surged as he broke free from Nian Luoyun's grasp. He turned his body and rushed into the sky with his head down. With a side kick, he hit Nian Luoyun's chin and knocked him into the air. Chapter 518. Genius 1, second remember if you want to go. Showa.net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Cut the crap. Nian Luoyun's face darkened. He stomped the ground and punched, pouncing over to grab Wang Yu. The weapon in Wang Yu's hand transformed into a long staff. He pointed it diagonally down and struck Nian Luoyun's left foot, blocking his momentum. Following that, Wang Yu jumped up and kicked Nian Luoyun's face 3 times in a row, forcing him to retreat. Every time these 3 kicks landed, Flowing Cloud felt a chill crawl down his spine. He had never imagined that Wang Yu could be so much stronger than him. In fact, Wang Yu hadn't even used a skill to defeat him. Wang Yu landed on the ground and said, "First of all, your profession has made you forget your original identity. Using the same trick on me, are you treating everyone else as a target?" Flowing Cloud was shocked to hear this. Due to the captor's class, very few players could withstand a single blow from Flowing Cloud. Even bosses were countered by Flowing Cloud's grab skills. In PvE, Flowing Cloud and the others were the ones who dealt with the captor. As a result, Nian Luoyun became more and more reliant on her class's skills, neglecting her own techniques. She turned a flexible PvP class into an increasingly inflexible one. As he spoke, Wang Yu rushed over again. Nian Luoyun still raised his hand to meet him, trying to grab Wang Yu and ravage him. This time, Wang Yu didn't even use his rod. He ducked and dodged, dodging Nian Luoyun's arms and stepping on Nian Luoyun's knee. Nian Luoyun couldn't help but fall to the ground. Secondly, the suppressive nature of your skills allows you to ignore the weaknesses of this class's skills. You want to defeat me with that? No matter how many years you train, it won't work. When you said again, Love, Go Small, say, Net could catapult are all about their arms. As long as they were caught, they would die. However, no matter how strong a catapult was, it couldn't use its legs to catch people, right? Against normal players or bosses, Nian Luoyun could easily kill them, but against a great expert like Wang Yu, who focused on being one with the waist, if his lower body wasn't stable, he wouldn't have any support. Why you dare to look down on me? Nian Luoyun was humiliated and angered by Wang Yu's mockery. He was a person with a strong sense of pride. Now that he had been beaten to the ground by Wang Yu and reprimanded by Wang Yu, he was immediately enraged to the extreme. Enraged, Nian Luoyun squatted on the ground again. With his hands on the ground, he kicked his legs and pounced at Wang Yu like a lion hunting a rabbit. Wang Yu sighed and shook his head. His afterimage clone blocked the attack, while his real body leaped above Nian Luoyun. He activated Eagle Stamp and stomped on Nian Luoyun's head, back, and butt, knocking Nian Luoyun to the ground. Wang Yu took a step forward and stepped on Nian Liuyun's shoulder. He continued, "The high priority of the system's skills has made you neglect the essentials and forget the subtleties of your own martial arts. If you were in the past, you might have been able to fight me, but now you're basically useless." The designers of the Grandmaster of Combat had some skills and could create and embody this class in a variety of ways. However, in the eyes of real martial arts experts, their so-called skills were nothing more than cheap tricks. The only thing worth mentioning was that the skills were certified by the system. No matter how good the martial arts were, it was just a control. It was impossible to reach the super high priority of the system's skills. Catcher was the class with the highest priority out of all the classes. Nian Luyun was immersed in the high priority brought by the system's skills and forgot his original superb control skills. He was no different from those idiots who bought the casket and returned the pearls. At this time, Nian Luyun was at best a super high-end player who had obtained a hidden class. If this continued, the gap between him and a martial artist like Wang Yu, who combined game skills with his own skills, would only widen. It might even affect his real cultivation. This was called chi deviation. Wang Yu was not lying when he said that he was useless. What should I do? Nian Luyun was reprimanded by Wang Yu. Although he was very angry, after careful consideration, every word was reasonable, leaving Nian Luyun no room to refute. At this time, he actually forgot his original intention and asked Wang Yu for guidance. Use the body and the mind, understand? Wang Yu said, "Got it." Nian Luyun nodded blankly. "It's good that you understand. Have a safe journey." As he said that, Wang Yu raised his foot and stomped on Nian Luyun's head, turning him into a white light. The surrounding fans of Nian Luyun were completely stunned when they saw this scene. They were stunned for a long time before they recovered. God Luyun seems to have been defeated. One of them even doubted his eyes. He lost, and he was completely crushed. Someone else said in disbelief. Not to mention them, even Nian Luyun herself had never imagined that there would be such a massive gap between her and Wang Yu. In the previous battle, Wang Yu had only used a handful of skills. Moreover, she had only used 2 suppressive skills that landed on the ground. Yet, just that alone was enough to beat Nian Luyun to the point where he got up and admitted defeat. This was unacceptable to Nian Luyun's fans. Speaking of which, did you record it? The fans of the 2 experts were like fire and water. It was rare for the 2 to fight, so of course there had to be a video to prove the truth. However, no one expected Nian Luyun to lose, and lose so badly. Yeah, and it's a live broadcast. Rebirth was directly linked to the forums. The higher the number of views of the game, the higher the profit, especially when it was an unparalleled battle between 2 experts. If it was a live broadcast, the number of views would definitely be astronomical. They weren't fools. Who didn't want to earn some card money? Therefore, 9 out of 10 people turned on a live broadcast. Wang Yu wasn't someone who cared about fame. Of course, he didn't care about what the crowd was talking about. Instead, he turned his head to look for the instigator, Underwater Fish. In Wang Yu's eyes, it didn't matter whether Nian Luyun was killed or not. Underwater Fish was a sanctimonious guy, and killing him 100 times wouldn't be enough to vent his anger. However, when he turned around and saw Underwater Fish, Wang Yu couldn't help but be stunned. The archer, named Little Meng, was not dead yet. She was fighting back and forth with Underwater Fish, and she even had the upper hand. Not to mention Underwater Fish's character, he was quite strong. Although he had the class advantage, the fact that Little Dream was able to beat Underwater Fish so badly surprised Wang Yu. Mages and archers were both high attack and fragile classes. Battles between these 2 classes usually ended in 2 or 3 rounds. The fact that the 2 of them had fought for so long was beyond Wang Yu's understanding of these 2 classes. Therefore, Wang Yu rubbed his chin and observed. After a closer look, Wang Yu suddenly found that not only did Little Dream have the upper hand, but she also had the absolute advantage, because her fighting style was very strange. The 2 of them were clearly fighting back and forth, but it wasn't difficult for Wang Yu to see that Underwater Fish's movement and channeling were all controlled by Little Dream. If it wasn't for Little Dream's low output, Underwater Fish would have died a long time ago. Chapter 519. However, a mage's physical defense was not high. No matter how low Xiao Meng's attack was, after such a long time, Underwater Watcher's HP was also very low. Wang Yu saw that the time of his defense was still up, so he raised his hand and used a chi wave to turn Underwater Watcher into a white light. F***ck, you killed him? Seeing Wang Yu instantly kill the target that she had worked so hard to grind down to a sliver of HP, Xiao Meng was immediately unhappy. It's nothing, no need to thank me. Wang Yu did not hear the displeasure in Xiao Meng's words. After all, in Wang Yu's eyes, Xiao Meng's way of fighting was simply torture. Thank you, my ass. I helped you, but you actually stole my kill. Xiao Meng raised her crossbow and shot 3 crossbow bolts at Wang Yu. Xiao Meng's 3 crossbow bolts were not very accurate. Only one flew towards Wang Yu's face, while the other 2 flew diagonally toward Wang Yu's feet. Stop messing around. Wang Yu took a step back and dodged the 2 crossbow bolts. Then, he casually slapped away the arrow that flew towards his face. Just as he was about to say something, he found that he could not move. Huh? What's going on? Wang Yu looked at his status and found that he had an additional control effect from Shadow Bind. Shadow Bind. Bind for 2 seconds, silence for 2 seconds. A control effect. No wonder Underwater Watcher was being suppressed. It turned out that this girl had this kind of skill. Although mages had high damage output, they were a class that was afraid of control. If it was only the immobilize effect, it would not be a big problem for mages with high attack power to fight one-on-one. However, the silence effect was the most feared control effect for mages. Mages basically relied on roar to deal damage. If they were silenced, they would not be able to deal damage or move. At that time, a fragile mage would be like a piece of meat waiting to be slaughtered. The 2 effects of comfort and silence appeared on a skill, which was even more fatal. Every class would more or less have a dispel skill, but after being silenced, the dispel skill would not be able to be used. They could only watch helplessly as they were beaten to death. With such a powerful crowd control skill, this girl was clearly not an ordinary person. However, Wang Yu was puzzled. None of the 3 arrows hit him, so why was he inexplicably controlled? Just as Wang Yu was puzzled, the crossbow in Xiao Meng's hand transformed into a longbow. She pulled the bowstring, and a dozen arrows fell from the sky. Wang Yu recognized this skill. It was the level 30 archer skill, Blood Arrow Rain. It was an area of effect skill for archers. The difference was that Xiao Meng's arrows were black, while ordinary archers' arrows were red. Wang Yu's hands moved up and down unhurriedly, grabbing Xiao Meng's arrows one by one. Then, he said with dissatisfaction, "Why did you make a move without saying anything?" After all, we used to be comrades. Xiao Meng did not answer Wang Yu's question, but said in surprise, You caught them all. Ah, what's wrong? Is there a problem? Wang Yu's tone was quite matter-of-fact, causing Xiao Meng to almost choke to death. What did he mean by there was a problem? Although most players could use their weapons to block arrows, it needed to be coordinated with movement and skills. At this time, Wang Yu was frozen and silent. He could neither move nor use skills, so he just stood there and caught all the arrows. Yes, it was not blocking, it was catching. The effects of the 2 were similar, but the technical content was like heaven and earth. Moreover, Blood Arrow Rain was a skill, not a normal attack. Unexpectedly, it was caught in the hands of someone. Xiao Meng suspected that there was a problem with the system. However, Wang Yu asked if there was a problem. Catching skills with his bare hands, this guy was really abnormal. No problem, Xiao Meng replied awkwardly. Then, she grumbled, It wasn't easy for me to personally take care of that scum, but you came out to steal my kill. Iron Bull, right? My name is Ling Long Meng. I'm a friend of that animal president of yours. Oh, hello. Wang Yu hurriedly sent a friend request over, and then said with understanding and horror, No wonder you haven't killed the Watcher fish for so long. It turns out that you were deliberately torturing him. It was reasonable for Wuji's friend to hate the Watcher fish. Moreover, listening to Ling Long Meng's tone, her relationship with Wuji should be quite good. To be able to have a good relationship with that kind of person, his behavior and thoughts were somewhat abnormal. Watching this girl torture people to death bit by bit, destroying the enemy psychologically and physiologically, this kind of behavior was simply insane to the extreme. No wonder people often said that the most vicious thing was a woman's heart. Although the one being tortured to death was the watcher fish, this kind of inhumane behavior inevitably made Wang Yu break out in a cold sweat. Bullshit. Do you think I'm that kind of abnormal person? Ling Longmeng rolled her eyes at Wang Yu and said, My attack power is not enough. What can I do? No way. An archer's attack power is not enough. Do you think I'm a noob? Wang Yu said, although an archer's damage wasn't comparable to a mage's or an assassin's burst damage, their continuous damage wouldn't lose to any other class. Wang Yu was only a newbie. He wasn't a retard. He also knew this common sense. TCH, then do you know that an archer can add full intelligence? Ling Longmeng said provocatively. Full intelligence? Wang Yu was stunned. An archer was definitely a physical damage class. Wouldn't adding intelligence be trash? Of course, Wang Yu knew that his experience in the online gaming circle was still shallow. He had not seen many strange styles. In order not to make a fool of himself, he shamelessly asked, What's the benefit of adding so many points? Hey, is this old lady very familiar with you? Why should I tell you? Ling Longmeng's mouth twitched, causing Wang Yu to be dumbfounded. Not recognizing people after falling out with them. He was indeed a deranged person. Just what kind of people did this brat Wuji know? The snow holy lotus disappeared after it died. Let's not talk about whether the quest in Titan City could be salvaged, but the fastest flight back and forth would have to wait until tomorrow morning. This time, Flowing Cloud couldn't catch up to Wang Yu's progress. Wang Yu opened the quest window, marked the location of the wind elves on the map, ignored the people around him, and went straight to Elven City. Hey, where are you going? Ling Longmeng saw that Wang Yu was ignoring her, so she stuck to him like a piece of gum. Hey, don't you have any manners? I'm asking you a question. Wang Yu looked at the chattering Ling Longmeng behind him. He wanted to say, Are we very close? But that would make him seem narrow-minded, and Ling Longmeng was a lady who looked okay. She had even helped him before. It would be too ungentlemanly. Quest, Wang Yu said concisely. Quest. Ling Longmeng's eyes lit up and said, Count me in. Most of the quests in Rebirth could be shared, and doing quests to level up was very rewarding. Compared to killing monsters, it was far better in any aspect. When Ling Longmeng heard that Wang Yu was doing a quest, she couldn't help but want a piece of the pie. No, Wang Yu decisively refused. Chapter 520. F***CK. Are you ignoring me now that you've pulled up your pants? Exquisite Dream pointed at Wang Yu and scolded him. Hearing that, Wang Yu almost vomited blood. She turned pale with fright and shouted, Big sister, watch your words. Although Wang Yu understood what Exquisite Dream meant, the girl's words were too arrogant. They were not far from the exit of the Elven Citadel, and there weren't too many people, but there weren't too few either. If they were to be surrounded, who knew what they would think? The Elven Citadel wasn't far from Yuhuicheng. Wang Yu still had some acquaintances. If this got out, how would he face the world in the future? I don't care. Group up with me. Otherwise, I'll continue shouting. With that, Ling Long Dream pounced on Wang Yu. F***CK. Wang Yu sweated profusely. This girl was indeed Wuji's friend. Even the way they did things was so similar. This is a class-specific quest. I did it alone. I can't share it. Wang Yu explained as he dodged. Class-specific quest? That interesting? What's the reward? Exquisite Dream asked curiously. Big sister, are we very familiar with each other? Wang Yu's head was full of black lines. In the end, she couldn't help but ask this question. Are you really going to dump me after using me? Exquisite Dream shouted again. Wang Yu felt a headache coming on, seeing that people were already surrounding them. Wang Yu covered Exquisite Dream's mouth and dragged her far away before saying, Can you not do that? Actually, this girl didn't mean any harm. She was just curious. Moreover, she had helped him, so Wang Yu couldn't kill her. The more she acted like this, the more Wang Yu felt helpless. He had always thought that violence could solve everything in the game. Today, he had learned something new. Then tell me, I shouted, I'm scared of you. The reward is Qin Gong exclusive to Grandmasters of Combat. Wang Yu said helplessly. Qin Gong? Why is there all kinds of weird stuff in this game? What is it used for? Linglong Dream had played quite a few wuxiao online games, so she had naturally heard of Qin Gong. However, for the term to appear in a Western fantasy game, she was quite puzzled. It's like your personal mount, Wang Yu explained. It's so interesting. Why don't you bring me along to play? Ling Longmeng shouted excitedly. Big sis, I did the exclusive quest alone. Is it fun? What do you think? Bring me along. F***CK. Wang Yu collapsed. Then follow me. You can't team up for this mission. Wang Yu had no choice but to compromise with this woman who he could neither kill nor argue with. Anyway, as long as they did not form a team, this task could be completed. Wang Yu was not afraid that he could not complete it, but he was afraid that this girl would cause trouble. Don't act like you hate your country. I'm still very powerful. Who knows when you might need me again, Ling Longmeng said shamelessly. Can you not put the word need in front of the word you? You make it sound like we're related. We're actually not that close, okay? Wang Yu said angrily. First time strangers, second time familiarity. Calling a young lady to chat. Ling Longmeng was constantly showing off her astonishing ability to use words. A man like Wang Yu, who was introverted on the outside, might as well shut his mouth. He was afraid that this old woman would say more nonsense. Along the way, Ling Longmeng chattered nonstop, giving Wang Yu a headache. He finally understood why Wu Ji and the others didn't tell Mingdu when they created the guild. When they were playing online games, there were restrictions on typing and chatting. With the exception of chanting skills, fortunately, Mingdu had chosen to be a mage. There was nothing they could do that would interfere with talking. It was too annoying. Moreover, this girl was different from Mingdu. Mingdu's words were at most despicable and deserved a beating, but this girl's mouth was full of nonsense and all kinds of dirty words. It was simply too annoying. Do you know Mingdu? Wang Yu was annoyed by Ling Longmeng's words, so he asked. That animal, his mouth is quite loose, Ling Longmeng casually said. Wang Yu's cheeks were streaming with tears. This girl still dared to say that Mingdu's mouth was loose? Wang Yu really felt wronged for Mingdu. All right, do you have a girlfriend? What do you think of me? Ling Longmeng suddenly asked. This girl's thoughts were boundless. No one could guess how she could jump from the topic of Mingdu to the topic of a boyfriend. To be honest, I think you and Mingdu are quite compatible, Wang Yu said sincerely. Skinny and ugly, not my cup of tea, Ling Longmeng continued. I like strong men like you. I'm married. That's a pity. Let me know when you're going to divorce. Scram. Just like that, under Ling Longmeng's harassment, Wang Yu finally found the wind fairy Meisha. Meisha was a wind fairy. The system designer didn't know if it was to cut corners or if it was to show that this guy was different from the others. This guy's upper body was that of a handsome man, and his lower body was a ball of wind, giving off a strong feeling of speed. Just as Wang Yu was about to go up to talk and do the quest, Ling Longmeng suddenly pulled Wang Yu back and said seriously, Wait, there's something wrong with this NPC. Hearing this, Wang Yu immediately stopped in his tracks. If it was in terms of combat, Wang Yu naturally wouldn't listen to anyone. However, in terms of gaming knowledge, Wang Yu was very willing to listen to the words of these veterans in the gaming circle. Ling Longmeng was an expert on the same level as Fishwatcher. Her gaming knowledge was definitely not below that of Fishwatcher. Hearing Ling Longmeng's words, Wang Yu immediately became alert. What's going on? Ling Longmeng said with a serious expression, You said that he doesn't even have a lower body. Doesn't that mean that life has lost its meaning? What else? What else? Ling Longmeng was confused. What's the problem? Wang Yu asked with his eyes wide open. Ling Longmeng asked back. Wasn't the problem just now profound? You. Wang Yu had played games for so long, but this was the first time he was angered to the point of trembling. Stand here and don't cause trouble. Otherwise, I'll kill you. Wang Yu threw Ling Longmeng an extremely ungentlemanly sentence, then walked towards Wind elf Messiah. My dear friend, I seem to feel the pure power of ice on your body. Can you tell me why? Messiah's voice was very melodious when she spoke. Because I brought you a gift that you like. Wang Yu recited as he took out 2 snow lotuses. What a holy ice lotus. To be able to gain the approval of the Titan clan's thunder emblem, you didn't come here just to give me flowers, did you? Messiah put away the snow lotuses and said to Wang Yu with a smile. Wang Yu said, I heard that you are the god of wind. I want to gain your approval and control the power of the wind. Meisha was straightforward. After Wang Yu stated the purpose of her visit, she immediately said, So you are an outstanding grandmaster of combat. Since you came all the way here to deliver the sacred snow lotus, it is not too much to ask for this. Thank you. Messiah waved her hand and said, The so-called Qigong is the same as the exclusive mounts of other professions. The purpose is to make you warriors taller, faster, and stronger. However, you're different. The difficulty of the trial will be greatly increased. Chapter 5:21. System notification. You have activated the hidden side quest, Move Like Thunder and Wind. Rank, S. Do you wish to accept? What does this mean? Wang Yu asked in confusion. It was supposed to be the Son of the Wind quest. How did it suddenly become a hidden quest? And an S rank one at that. My dear friend, Messiah pointed at the thunder emblem on Wang Yu's chest and said, Since you have passed Arceus' trial, you must be a great warrior. Only the greatest of warriors can receive this supreme honor. Wang Yu immediately understood what he was trying to say. The trigger condition for the Thunder and Lightning mission was the Thunder Badge. It turned out that this badge was a trial reward. No wonder Arceus said that this thing was not as simple as a pass. Oh, what's the reward for the hidden quest? Wang Yu had been tricked by NPCs many times. He had learned to be more cautious. He was no longer the rash kid who would accept any quest he saw. After playing the game for so long, Wang Yu knew that Rebirth was different from other games. In other games, S-rank quests were hard to come by, but in Rebirth, they weren't as rare as the lowest D-rank quests. There were even S-rank quests in the Mercenary Hall and class mentors. However, the number of players who could actually complete them could be counted on one hand. This was because S-rank quests were different from A-rank quests. No matter how difficult an A-rank quest was, as long as one was strong enough, one could still complete it. If one couldn't find a breakthrough in S-rank quests, one could only admit defeat and pay a heavy penalty for failure. That was why S-rank quests were also known as the scam quests. Qigong quests were unique. If you failed, you couldn't accept them again. If you accepted an S-rank quest and couldn't complete it, wouldn't you have to run for the rest of your life? Moreover, from Arceus' quest, the reward for completing the trial was only a badge. The attributes were mediocre, but it was better than nothing. If Messiah's trial reward was also a badge, then it was better not to do it. After all, the badge wouldn't affect the quality of Qigong. If you pass the trial, you can get a wind badge. Wherever you go, the people of the wind will open a path for you. At the same time, your Qigong quest will be completed smoothly, Messiah said. Do titles and badges affect Qigong? Wang Yu asked. No, Messiah shook her head. Then, just as Wang Yu was about to say that he didn't want to do this mission, Messiah suddenly said, But combining the wind and thunder badges will give you an unexpected surprise. An unexpected surprise? Wang Yu's heart skipped a beat. He quickly asked, What surprise? Truthfully, the benefits of the Thunder Emblem were quite obvious. For example, the Holy Mountain Pass could be used once before disappearing, while the Thunder Emblem allowed players to enter and leave the Holy Mountain at any time. The most obvious benefit was that players with the Thunder Emblem in Titan City's vicinity would receive a significant boost to their reputation with NPCs. As for how much, Wang Yu didn't know. However, based on the guard's attitude, he guessed it to be at least 50. You have to experience it yourself, Meisha said with a smile. Seeing Meisha's expression, Wang Yu was at a loss. This was an S-rank mission. Although Wang Yu knew that S-rank missions were mainly meant to trick players and weren't something that could be obtained by chance, the mission rewards were real. In the face of such a difficult and high-reward challenge, Backing out wasn't in Wang Yu's character. If he accepted, Wang Yu was afraid that he would be tricked. If he couldn't learn Qin Gong for the rest of his life, the price would be too high. S-rank mission. Do you think I should accept it? Wang Yu turned his head and asked Exquisite Dream. NPCs wouldn't listen to players. At this time, Exquisite Dream was the only player beside Wang Yu. Wang Yu had no choice but to let Exquisite Dream make the decision. After listening to Wang Yu's explanation, Exquisite Dream nodded decisively and said, "Nonsense. Of course I'll accept it." "Okay, I'll accept it." Wang Yu originally wanted to accept this mission. With Exquisite Dream's hint, he simply said to Mei Xia, "Accept the mission." After saying this, Wang Yu turned his head and asked Exquisite Dream, "Can you tell me why I can accept this mission?" Exquisite Dream honestly replied, "I won't lose anything if I fail." Damn! Wang Yu once again broke down. With a bitter face, he asked Mei Xia, "Can I cancel the mission?" Mei Xia smiled and said, "Of course you can. However, you only have one chance. If you give up on the mission, you won't get a second chance." F***CK. Wang Yu wanted to cry. A single mistake could cause everlasting sorrow. How could he throw the decision to that unreliable woman? "Do you want to give up?" Mei Xia asked. "No." Wang Yu hurriedly denied. What a joke. If he tried, at least he had a chance of succeeding. If he didn't, then he'd have to watch others drive for the rest of his life. Thinking about how those animals in Chuanjin would rejoice in his misfortune. How could Wang Yu give up? System notification. You have accepted the hidden side mission, Move Like Thunder and Wind. Grade S. You have passed Wind Fairy Mei Xiao's trial. Higher 0 to 1. Faster 0 to 1. Stronger 0 to 1. Quest notification. This mission has a high difficulty. Can be completed in a 2-person party. Recommended level. 80-inch. I've been tricked again. Wang Yu looked at the quest notification and his hands trembled. A level 40 player doing a level 80 mission. Wasn't this clearly showing that he was going to eat people up without spitting out the bones? No matter how confident Wang Yu was, he could only do a mission 20 levels above him. Did he really think he was Superman for doing a mission 40 levels above him? Looking at Mei Xia acting like a real estate sales manager and using all sorts of benefits to entice players, it was really hard to guard against the system when it came to tricking people. Let's begin. Wang Yu braced himself and said, since he had accepted a mission, even if he had to cry, he had to complete it. This was the life motto that Wang Yu had set for himself ever since he started playing the game. You have a chance to form a party. Don't you want to use it? Mei Xia reminded warmly. Wang Yu flipped through the quest window. Yes, this trial could indeed be completed in a 2-person party. However, the highest level players were around level 35. For a level 80 mission, a 20-man party would be a waste. Speaking of which, will the difficulty of the mission increase if I form a party? Wang Yu asked carefully. The difficulty of forming a team was doubled. This kind of underhanded and despicable behavior was a common occurrence. You have to believe in the integrity of the elven god. Will the difficulty increase? No. Oh. Wang Yu replied, and threw a party request to Exquisite Dream. Although this girl couldn't help him with anything, she was here to join in the fun. It wouldn't be bad to do her a favor. Huh? Why are you forming a party with me? Could it be that you're thinking of me again? Didn't you say? Exquisite Dream excitedly walked over and was about to spout nonsense again. Wang Yu hurriedly said, you can form a party in a 2-person trial. If you spout nonsense again, I won't bring you along. Reality proved that a woman's interest in watching a good show was greater than a long-winded man's. Hearing what Wang Yu said, Exquisite Dream immediately shut her mouth. Chapter 522. Mei Xia smiled and nodded. Then, the scene changed for Wang Yu and Meng Lei, and they were brought to the trial grounds. System notification. You have entered Mei Xia's trial grounds. You will receive the final reward after passing the 3 trials. If you fail, all trial players will lose the right to receive the exclusive Mount Quest. All trial players. That doesn't include me, right? Exquisite Dream asked Mei Xia as she looked at the shared quest. Mei Xia smiled and said, that includes you. Shameless old cow, I'm going to kill you. Why are you trying to harm me? After 3 seconds of silence, Exquisite Dream pounced on Wang Yu, looking as if she was going to skin Wang Yu alive. Exquisite Dream was only here to help. Who knew that the penalty for failing the quest would be so severe? Exclusive mounts had high speed, attack, and defense bonuses. Exquisite Dream was an archer that focused on intelligence, but had low attack and slow movement speed. She had always wanted to get her exclusive mount one day, but now that Wang Yu's quest had shattered Exquisite Dream's last hope, how could she not be anxious? Aya. Wang Yu dodged while pointing at Meija and said, I don't know either. He tricked you. Meija still had a smile on her face. You didn't ask me. Wang Yu and Exquisite Dream were speechless. Don't be so pessimistic, Meija said. If you complete the quest, you will also be rewarded. It would have been better if Meija didn't say this. Once she said this, Exquisite Dream felt even more despair. What if? The NPC's words had already indicated the success rate. I'm sorry. I didn't know this would happen. Wang Yu said apologetically. Putting himself in her shoes, Wang Yu's stats were already so abnormal. When he heard that he couldn't learn Qigong, he couldn't help but think about whether or not to accept the quest. Exquisite Dream, on the other hand, was relying on this in the future. What's the point of saying this now? You ruined my life. You will take responsibility, right? Exquisite Dream asked. Forget about taking responsibility. At most, if someone bullies you, I'll help you take revenge. Wang Yu bargained. Exquisite Dream curled her lips and said, all right. Don't talk nonsense. I can tell that you're not sincere. Think about how you're going to complete the quest. Wang Yu was speechless. In the end, Exquisite Dream was quite magnanimous. If it was an ordinary person who had been cheated like this, they would have definitely risked their life. Exquisite Dream was just angry for a while, but now she was acting as if nothing had happened. If one were to say that her character was good, then she was broad-minded. But if one were to say that she was heartless, then how could an archer who put all of her attribute points into intelligence be so excited? Even if she had a heart and lungs, she wouldn't be like this. Messiah's trial quest was divided into 3 stages: high jump, running, and boss battle. Every time a player passed a stage, the system would reward the player with a title. After all 3 stages were cleared, the 3 titles would be combined into the Son of Wind title. The main parts of the hidden quest were similar to the normal quest. The only difference was that there were more obstacles in the stages. Moreover, the final boss, Messiah, was added as a competitor for the 3 stages. If Messiah's score was higher than the players, then even if the players safely cleared the stage, it would still be deemed as a failure. After reading the trial's introduction, Wang Yu couldn't help but despise the shamelessness of the system. The first part of the trial was actually very normal. It was just that the final part where Messiah was a competitor was simply too much. Messiah was a wind elf. Competing with him and even having to surpass him, wasn't this nonsense? The first stage of the trial was called Against the Wind. It was a stage where 3 people jumped up a mountain. From time to time, there would be obstacles like rocks and wood falling from the mountain. Moreover, in the stage's settings, no matter how high you jumped, once you were hit by an obstacle, you would have to start jumping again. This was the most difficult stage of the trial. The fighter class high jump was actually a strong point. Moreover, Wang Yu was also very agile. Originally, he was very confident in this stage. However, when he saw Messiah floating in the air, Wang Yu became puzzled. How are you going to jump without legs? Wang Yu asked Messiah. Messiah didn't even have legs, so it was obvious that she couldn't jump. I don't know how to jump, Messiah said. I know how to fly. Is this trial really for players? Wang Yu was already numb to the unfair settings of the quest. When he heard that his opponent was someone who could fly, he didn't reveal too much emotion. Instead, he threw out the doubts in his heart. In the stage of Against the Wind, there were more than 100 platforms up, down, left, and right. Just climbing up the platforms would take a lot of effort, and they would also have to deal with the obstacles in the sky. However, the system's opponent was flying and jumping. These 2 concepts were completely different. Wang Yu really suspected that this quest was deliberately designed by the system to mess with the players. Don't be emotional. my strength will be greatly reduced. As long as you think of a way, you can win. Messia rubbed her palms together and said to the bitter-looking Wang Yu in exquisite dream, "Moreover, as long as either of you can beat me, it will be your win." What's the difference between that and not saying anything? Wang Yu rolled his eyes at Messia. Higher, faster, and stronger. These two quests were related to agility. Exquisite Dream was a useless intelligence archer. Was Wang Yu counting on her to run or jump over the wind elves? Messia smiled, but didn't say anything. Exquisite Dream tugged at Wang Yu and said, "I've thought of a countermeasure." Countermeasure? Wang Yu whispered, "What countermeasure? We can do this." Exquisite Dream quietly explained her idea in the party channel. After listening to Exquisite Dream's idea, Wang Yu rubbed his chin and said, "I couldn't tell that you could actually think of such a good idea." Nonsense. Over 30 levels are all added to intelligence. It's normal for me to be smarter than you. Exquisite Dream proudly said. Wang Yu hesitated and said, "It's a good idea, but even if you don't want to be shameless, I still want to be, damn, what are you talking about? The system has always been shameless. If it did, you'd lose." Exquisite Dream looked at Wang Yu with disdain. Wang Yu thought about it and realized that it was true. The system was already shameless enough to use flying to compete with jumping. It wouldn't hurt him to be shameless for once. Yes, that makes sense. We'll do as you say. With that, Wang Yu stood up and walked to a place very close to Maisha. Messia smiled and asked, "Have you thought of a countermeasure? Have you? Then shall we begin?" "All right, let's begin." Wang Yu confirmed, and a countdown appeared on the screen. When the countdown reached 1, Messia was just about to take off. Wang Yu suddenly asked, "Old Messia, what level are you now?" "Same as you, level 40. Messia said without hesitation. "Hee, then I'm sorry." As he spoke, Wang Yu reached out to grab Messia. P.S. Jinshan Poison Tyrant is really funny. It asked me why I wanted to uninstall it. Was I really willing to uninstall it? I don't even know how it got onto my computer. To be continued. Chapter 5:23. Meisha looked up at the sky and was about to take off. Suddenly, she was pulled back by Wang Yu's hands and fell to the ground. Then, Wang Yu stepped on Meisha and gave her a round of beating. Meisha was not an NPC with high HP, nor was she as overpowered as Arceus. After being weakened by the system, her attributes were only at the level of a level 40 elite gold boss. When she was pinned down by a ferocious person like Wang Yu, she could not escape unscathed. By the time she reacted, her HP had already been reduced by a third by Wang Yu. Meisha was also a boss, so it was not appropriate for her to be pinned to the ground by Wang Yu. Her body flashed with a golden light as she used Tyrant Recovery. Then, she quickly pulled away from Wang Yu. She then took out a longbow and knocked an arrow. "Huh, where is he?" Meisha was about to shoot when she discovered that Wang Yu had disappeared. "Over here." At this moment, Meisha suddenly heard someone speak behind her. At the same time, her hair was suddenly grabbed by Wang Yu. Then, she received a vicious kick to the back of her knees, causing her to involuntarily kneel on the ground. "Lie down!" After Wang Yu kicked Meisha, he used Tiger Claw with his right hand that was grabbing Meisha's hair and pulled it down. With a thud, the back of Meisha's head hit the stone floor, and she was stunned. Without saying anything, Wang Yu grabbed Meisha's hair with one hand and pressed one knee on her chest. He went up and gave her another beating, causing her HP to plummet again. As a wind elf, Meisha was not only an archer, but also a wind mage. Either of these two professions could kill a grandmaster of combat. However, both professions were completely useless once they were in close combat. This was especially true against a person like Wang Yu. With Meisha's fragile body, her hundreds of thousands of HP was not enough. After 2 rounds, she was directly beaten to death by Wang Yu. Even Exquisite Moon, who already knew that Wang Yu was a freak, was dumbfounded when she saw this scene. She hadn't known the upper limits of this guy's freakishness. "You killed him." Originally, the two of them had agreed that Wang Yu would be responsible for harassing the boss, while Exquisite Moon would be responsible for jumping onto the platform. Who would have thought that this brat would be so efficient? Exquisite Moon no longer knew how to organize her words. If someone had told her before that there was a grandmaster of combat capable of soloing a boss, she would definitely have cursed that person for bullsh asterisk T. However, after seeing Wang Yu, Exquisite Moon's view of the game had been completely overturned. Not only had this fellow soloed the boss, but he had also slaughtered the boss in a one-sided fashion. Just how monstrous was this? I think it's too troublesome to keep him occupied. It's better to just kill him, Wang Yu said calmly. In truth, it wasn't that Wang Yu was afraid of trouble. He just didn't trust Exquisite Dream. This girl's control was definitely top-notch. She should have been able to clear the stage safely. However, she was an archer with full intelligence. Doing something that an agility class should do made Wang Yu feel a little uneasy. That's not what I meant. You actually killed him just like that? That's too much of a freak. Exquisite Dream said again. This girl still thought that she was dreaming. Oh, it's not like I haven't killed someone stronger than him before. Wang Yu began to brag proudly when he saw Exquisite Dream's expression. You're awesome. Exquisite Dream said in admiration. The most difficult part of the trial stage was not the obstacles on the platform, but the opponent, Messiah. After getting rid of Messiah, the next stage of the trial stage would be much easier. After all, this stage jumping quest was prepared for ordinary players. Naturally, it would be a piece of cake for a master like Wang Yu. Wang Yu jumped onto the platform, dodging the obstacles in the sky. He jumped here and there like a Mario in an FC game. It didn't take long for him to reach the top of the mountain. System notification, perfect completion. The trial participant has received the title Rush to the Heavens, Rush to the Heavens. Jump plus 50%. It was actually a perfect completion. Wang Yu couldn't help but stare blankly. Wang Yu originally thought that he was cheating and was worried that the system would reduce his completion rate. However, the perfect completion evaluation was enough to prove that Messiah could be attacked. It seemed that the breakthrough point of this trial stage was Messiah. It was just as Exquisite Dream said, he lost face. Wang Yu still felt a little scared when he thought about it. Exquisite Dream was also very excited. The leap attribute was a very rare thing. Currently, no matter if it was equipment or anything else in the game, Exquisite Dream had never seen anything that increased the leap attribute. With an intelligence bow, she hadn't even experienced running before. Suddenly having a title that increased the leap attribute, there was no need to mention how excited she was. She only wanted to be happy and not be upset about losing something. Wang Yu saw Exquisite Dream's excitement and couldn't help but sigh. This was a player who could truly experience the fun of the game. Only Wind Elf Messiah had a gloomy expression. My friend, this is against the spirit of competition, Messiah said with a dark face. Wang Yu imitated Messiah's tone and said, You didn't say that I couldn't kill people. What spirit of competition? You're flying and jumping high, and you're still talking about spirit of competition? That's too funny. Indeed, I didn't say that. Messiah nodded and said, But doing so will make my favorability towards you drop. Just as Messiah finished speaking, Wang Yu received a system notification. Messiah's favorability towards you has dropped by 50 points, currently at average. F***CK. Wang Yu was shocked. 2 snow holy lotuses could only be exchanged for a total of 100 favorability points. Killing Messiah had only reduced it by half. This was too vicious. What was even more vicious was yet to come. Maija said to Wang Yu with a very unhappy expression, I am the main examiner of this trial. When my favorability towards you drops to 0, you'll be automatically disqualified from the trial. Wang Yu was shocked. She had no choice but to say, I am the main examiner of this trial. Wang Yu was speechless. This mission had a total of 3 trials. He had only passed one, and his favorability had already dropped by half. There were still 2 more trials to go. If he was disqualified, wouldn't he be in big trouble? Now let's start the second trial. As she spoke, Messiah changed the scene to the second trial. Just as Wang Yu thought, the second trial was similar to a cross-country track. The track was filled with traps and obstacles. The game settings were as simple as the first trial. If you were hit by an obstacle or a trap, you would have to start over. Moreover, You had to reach the key point before Messiah. System notification. You have accepted the trial mission running against the wind. Anyone in the party who passes the cross-country track before Messiah can pass the trial. Friendly reminder. Due to your performance in the first trial, you are not allowed to have any physical contact with your competitors. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the trial. Chapter 5:24. I can't have any physical contact. Seeing the notification, Wang Yu and Meng Qi were at a loss. In the second stage, Messiah was still flying. Flying on flat ground was even more insane than flying up. This was because when she jumped up, the obstacles would fall from the sky. Even if Messiah could fly, she would still have to avoid them. However, most of the mechanisms in the second stage were on the ground, and the rest were suspended in mid-air. As long as Messiah flew higher, she would be able to ignore the mechanisms on the ground and fly steadily all the way. The difficulty of the second stage was more than doubled. From the first trial, if they wanted to pass it perfectly, the most important trigger point was Messiah. Now that they couldn't even have any physical contact, what could they do? Exquisite Dream looked at the obstacles in the air, then at the traps on the ground, and finally at Messiah. She then said to Wang Yu, "If I shoot him with my bow, won't there be no physical contact?" "Hee ha ha ha. If you shoot, then shoot. What are you laughing at?" Wang Yu asked Exquisite Dream with a dumbfounded look. "Shoot, isn't it funny? Ha ha." Exquisite Dream laughed until she couldn't breathe. Wang Yu was even more confused. Messiah turned her head and stared at the two of them. "As long as you can attack me, even if there is physical contact, don't even think about it." Exquisite Dream's laughter suddenly stopped. The two's last attempt to play word games had been discovered in advance. F***CK your grandpa. Isn't this shameless? If you have the guts, fight me one-on-one. Exquisite Dream threw her weapon and pointed at Messiah. Messiah said, "If you roar at me, my favorability towards you will decrease." Woo-woo. Exquisite Dream was about to scold back, but Wang Yu covered her mouth. Meow. Her favorability had already decreased by half. If it continued to decrease, she would be eliminated in advance. He cheated. Shameless. Exquisite Dream said angrily, "Didn't you say that if you want to be shameless, you will lose? That's why I feel that there must be another way to deal with this trial." Wang Yu touched his chin and said, "How am I supposed to deal with him? He's flying in the sky, and there are so few obstacles. I'm not a full agility archer, so I can't help him at all." Exquisite Dream said gloomily. Wang Yu's eyes lit up when he heard that. "Fewer obstacles? We can create obstacles for him. Are we not allowed to make physical contact or attack him?" Linglong Meng asked doubtfully. "We can totally not attack him." Wang Yu giggled and gestured with her hands. Exquisite Dream understood Wang Yu's meaning and said in surprise, "I didn't know that a simple-minded fellow like you would have so many ideas. Of course, I'm not stupid enough to put all my attributes into intelligence. F***CK, B***TCH. What's wrong? Have you thought of a solution?" She glanced at the two of them and said, "I'm warning you. Don't try to attack me." Exquisite Dream raised her crossbow and fired. The arrow grazed past Messiah's head. Mei Xiao's face darkened. Linglong Meng said, "I didn't attack you. Why do you look like that?" Mei Xiao was speechless for a moment, then said, "All right, let the trial begin." As soon as she finished speaking, a countdown appeared in front of the two of them. This time, in order to prevent Wang Yu from getting close to her, Mei Xiao deliberately moved to the side. The countdown ended. Wang Yu leaped up and flew out. Meti spread out her arms and flew up against the wind, following closely behind her in a fluttering manner. At this moment, Exquisite Dream raised her crossbow and fired an arrow at Mei Xiao's body. Mei Xiao's body froze in midair. Mei Xiao was silenced and couldn't speak. However, her angry eyes seemed to be questioning Exquisite Dream. "You dare attack me?" Exquisite Dream smiled and pointed at the ground, saying, "I didn't attack you. I attacked the ground." Mei Xiao was, after all, a famous boss. When she heard Exquisite Dream's words, she was only slightly stunned. following which the angry expression on her face turned into a smile as she gave Exquisite Dream a thumbs up. This was Wang Yu's strategy. No obstacles, create obstacles. Originally, the best teammate for Wang Yu to pass this trial was actually Chun Xiang. Dark Warlocks weren't good at anything else, but they were very unique in terms of disgusting people. If Chun Xiang was here, he wouldn't need to say anything. He could just throw a darkness barrier in front of Mei Xia and block her for 5 seconds. Then he could throw a thorny bush for another 5 seconds. Then he could throw a darkness barrier, and then another. As long as he had enough mana, he could control Mei Xia until she died. In any case, Mei Xia only said that she couldn't attack him. She didn't say that she couldn't use skills. I threw a skill on the ground, and you hit it yourself. Although Exquisite Dream didn't have a non-directional crowd control skill like Chun Xiang, Wang Yu knew that Exquisite Dream had a skill called Shadow Binding Arrow. This skill could freeze and silence the target. What made Wang Yu most satisfied was that this skill's control effect didn't work on the target's body, but on the target's shadow. Shooting arrows on the ground can't be considered physical contact, right? Judging from Mai Zhi's attitude, she seemed to have been convinced by Ling Longmeng. After breaking free, Mai Zhi was about to give chase again, but Ling Longmeng's shadow bind hit Mai Zhi's shadow again. Maya calmly glanced at Ling Longmeng, her expression extremely calm. Although Shadow Bind's control effect was powerful, against a boss, it was nothing. If this arrow were aimed at Wang Yu, she would be immobilized for at least 2 seconds. However, Mei Xia was a master archer. Not only did she have class bonuses, but she also had the support of a boss. Hence, a single skill could only immobilize Mei Xia for 0.8 seconds. Archers weren't a class with explosive MP. On the contrary, archers mainly focused on agility. Their MP growth was even worse than her pitiful HP growth. Hence, Mei Xia was very calm. A single skill only had a 0.8 second duration. Moreover, crowd control skills consumed a lot of mana. An archer could maintain a maximum of 10 crowd control skills. 10 shadow binds meant 8 seconds of crowd control. The running track was very long. So what if she let the fighter run for 8 seconds first? If she wanted to win, although it would take some effort, it was still within her control. However, after 8 seconds, Exquisite Dream had caused Mei Xia to panic. If it were an ordinary archer, Mei Xia's calculations would definitely be correct. However, Mei Xia had never expected that the archer standing in front of her was a pure intelligence archer. Compared to other archers, Exquisite Dream's MP was so high that it made one's hair stand on end. 10 skills, another 10 skills, and another 10 skills. Mei Xia had been stunned for more than 20 seconds, but Exquisite Dream still had no intention of stopping. Mei Xia's face became incomparably pale. After throwing another 5 skills, Exquisite Dream's mana was completely empty. Meanwhile, Wang Yu was less than 100 meters away from the finish line. At this time, Mei Xia could not catch up no matter what. Mei Xia stared blankly at Exquisite Dream, not knowing what to say. A little level 35 archer had fired 35 shadow binding arrows in a row. This was definitely more shocking than when Wang Yu had beaten Mei Xia up. Chapter 525. System Notification. Perfect Clear. You have obtained the title Running with the Wind. Running with the Wind. Non-combat movement speed plus 50%. While Messiah was in a daze, Wang Yu had reached the finish line. The system notified her. Yay! Exquisite Dream jumped up in excitement when she saw the system notification. We won. Perfect Clear. The scene was cancelled. Wang Yu was teleported back from the finish line. Exquisite Dream pulled on Wang Yu's arm and shouted. Of course. Wang Yu smiled and pushed Exquisite Dream's hand away. Messiah was a little surprised. However, she didn't look angry like she did in the first stage. Not bad. If that's the case, I'm convinced of the result of this stage, Messiah said with a tone of admiration. From this, it could be seen that this was the bottom line of the quest. The possibility of a player surpassing a flying NPC was infinitely close to 0. The reason they could form a party was because the system had given them a way out. However, there was a limit to this breakthrough. Players could do their best to harass the NPC, but attacking the NPC was against the rules. It was just like in the Olympics. If an athlete taunted or insulted their opponent, they would at most be given a warning. If they dared to openly cause trouble, they would definitely be banned. However, normal players did not have the foresight and integrity of Wang Yu and Xiao Luo. It was likely that no one would dare to make a move on a trial NPC. This was the reason why S-rank missions were rarely completed. This was a test of the player's level of deceit. However, the third stage won't be so easy. Messia said unhurriedly when she saw the relaxed smiles on Wang Yu and exquisite dreams' faces. The third stage is a battle stage, right? Wang Yu asked. Wang had already passed 2 of the 3 stages. Naturally, Wang Yu could see that these 3 stages were worthy of their name. Since higher faster was high jump and running, the third stage was stronger than running. It would be a fierce battle. Not bad, Messia said. There are no techniques to clear this stage. You can only rely on your strength to suppress me. In the competition stage, the NPCs were not in an attacking state. Therefore, no matter how sinister and ruthless the players were, it was all permitted by the system. Therefore, Messia could only admit defeat. The battle stage was a clash of real strength. After all, it was a game. After all, combat was the main theme. Oh, I see. Wang Yu smiled and touched his chin. Actually, I don't like running and jumping. Fighting is more interesting. Messia was stunned by Wang Yu's words. Messia had been tricked by the 2 players twice in a row. She had even lost the first round. She was feeling quite frustrated, so she wanted to get back at the battle stage. Who knew that Messia was so confident, and Wang Yu seemed to be even more confident than Messia? Messia was at a loss. She was a boss. Did this brat really think that she only had that much strength? Let me tell you, in the battle stage, my strength is not as simple as the first stage, Messia warned Wang Yu. I know, Wang Yu nodded. That's even more interesting. This time, it wasn't just Messia. Even Exquisite Dream was stunned. Was he trying to scare the boss? His tone was too arrogant. All right, enough nonsense. Let's begin. While speaking, Messia waved her hand. The 3 of them entered the battlefield once more. After entering the battlefield, before Wang Yu and Exquisite Dream could react, Messia raised her hand and shot an arrow at Exquisite Dream. Exquisite Dream was a fragile archer. How could she withstand an arrow from a boss? Messia immediately sent Exquisite Dream out of the battlefield. Damn, what a despicable bastard. He actually used a sneak attack. Exquisite Dream could not help but curse when she was sent out of the battlefield before she could even get a good look at the scenery. She had no choice. Messia was a dual-class archer. In the second stage of the trial, Messia had felt the malice of Exquisite Dream, an abnormal archer. If it were only Dream Exquisite alone, then so be it. After all, Messia could easily kill her with a normal attack. However, there was still Wang Yu, a Grandmaster of Combat. How could a Grandmaster of Combat possibly close in on a range boss? After experiencing Wang Yu's methods, Messia did not dare stay within 5 meters of Wang Yu. Seeing Exquisite Dream die, Wang Yu was stunned. The countdown hasn't started, right? Don't tell me that as the strongest martial artist, you don't desire a fair battle? Messia said in a dignified manner. I do, but you're breaking the rules, Wang Yu said sternly. Messia hurriedly stuffed something into Wang Yu's hands. Then, she said in a low voice, don't tell anyone. Wang Yu, Title Stone, obtained the title Heart of the Strong after use. Class restriction, Archer. Damn it, class restriction, Archer. This must be a special compensation for Exquisite Dream. Wang Yu did not know whether to laugh or cry as he placed the title stone into his bag. System notification. You have accepted the trial quest, Advance in the Face of Difficulties. At the same time, a countdown appeared on the screen. During the countdown, Messia desperately floated far away from Wang Yu. It seemed that Wang Yu's close combat abilities had left quite a shadow in her heart. Otherwise, as a boss, she would not be afraid of a mere player, no matter the class difference. When the countdown ended, Misty, was already 20 meters away from Wang Yu. For safety's sake, she had even floated high up in the sky. At this time, Wang Yu also saw Misty's full attributes. Wind Spirit, Misty, LV 45, Gold, Epic, HP, 500000 MP, 500000 Skills. Wind Magic Mastery, Marksman Mastery, Sigh of the Wind Introduction, a rare genius of the Elven race. She received the Wind Elemental's recognition and inheritance at birth. In addition to the Elven race's peerless archery skills, Misty became an elder of the Elven race before the age of 800. Wind Spirit's Rage. Your previous actions have angered the elegant and proud Wind Spirit. Wind Spirit level +5. Current level, 45. Wind Spirit's Trial. The Wind Spirit in the Trial. Ability rank, +1. Current level, Epic. Although the attribute description was very simple, Misty's strength was undeniable. The lifespan of the elves could not be considered immortal, but it was close. Misty, who was 800 years old, was only a few years old in human terms. For her to have the strength of an elder of the Elven race at such a young age, it could be seen how talented she was. Marksman was the class with the highest agility growth. Wind and Lightning were both classes famous for their speed. Of course, Lightning speed referred to spell casting speed, while Wind speed referred to movement speed. In previous online games, although movement speed was also very important, it was not enough to make a player invincible. However, in the holographic mode of online games, as long as there were no control classes, as long as one's movement speed was high enough, they would be invincible. Chapter 5:26. In addition to being fast, Wind Magic also had the most famous skill of magicians in the later stages of the game, flight. Players might have learned skills like levitation or featherfall, but compared to flight, they were nothing. What did it mean to have an archer that could fly and move at such a high speed be like? Even a small monster was enough to give most players a headache, let alone a boss. Misty was a boss that specialized in two elements. She had mastered wind magic and all the skills of an archer. Her shooting range was also terrifying. When a level 35 archer learned shooting mastery, their shooting range could reach up to 15 meters. When a level 40 magician learned ballistic mastery, their shooting range could reach up to 13 meters. Misty had learned both, and with the bonus of being a boss, her shooting range was at least 25 meters. She didn't even need to move. With the attack range of a player, they wouldn't even be able to touch her, let alone attack her. At this moment, Misty was very pleased with herself in the air. She knocked an arrow and aimed it at Wang Yu. After Wang Yu dodged to the side, Misty's second arrow followed. Wang Yu couldn't help but be surprised. The two arrows were less than 3 meters apart. Misty's average attack speed was almost as fast as a player's rapid arrow skill. She was really overpowered. Oh, not bad. Misty saw that her two arrows missed and was slightly surprised. Misty originally thought that Wang Yu was only good at close combat. She didn't expect his reaction speed to be so fast. After her surprise, Misty drew her bow even faster. Arrows rained down from the top of Wang Yu's head. Unexpectedly, Wang Yu didn't retreat. Instead, he advanced. As he dodged the arrows, he rushed towards Misty's position. "You're courting death." Misty pulled her bowstring, and a large amount of arrows flew towards Wang Yu. Blood Arrow Rain was only a dozen arrows in Exquisite Dream's hands. However, in Misty's hands, the effect was multiplied. More than 50 arrows flew towards Wang Yu. Wang Yu didn't dodge. His hands danced up and down at an extremely fast speed, swatting the arrows down one by one. From start to finish, he didn't slow down at all. Seeing such a strange scene, Misty's eyes almost popped out of her head. There were more than 50 arrows, and as Wang Yu moved forward, there were at least 10 arrows that fell at the same time. In just 1 second, Wang Yu had actually knocked down all the arrows. What kind of speed was this? In all fairness, Misty was both a wind magician and a marksman. Her attributes were superior to Wang Yu in all aspects. However, she definitely couldn't reach such attack speed. That speed required reaction speed. In fact, this was nothing. What frightened Messiah the most was the accuracy of Wang Yu's attacks. Both Wang Yu and the arrows were in a high-speed state. In this state, she was able to catch the arrows at such a high speed. Every arrow was accurately caught. The terrifying degree of accuracy made Mishia, the epic boss, break out in a cold sweat. At the same time, she was glad that she had flown into the sky when the system countdown started. Otherwise, if such a monster had gotten close to her, her ending would have been very tragic. In the blink of an eye, Wang Yu had already passed through Messiah's arrows from 20 meters away and arrived below Messiah. Now that he was below Messiah, Wang Yu was temporarily safe. This was because when he fought against the Dragon Blood Spear God, Wang Yu knew that when the boss was flying, the area below him was a blind spot. Of course, Messiah's body couldn't compare to a dragon's, but he was a magician and an archer. No matter which of these two classes it was, he couldn't attack the target below him. Have you ever seen an elegant magician or archer throw skills at his crotch with his eyes closed? Of course, players like Mingdu were an exception. However, elegant creatures like the elves would have to bet the dignity of the elves if they wanted to do such a dirty thing. Even if Messiah didn't have a crotch, after losing her target, Messiah immediately realized that Wang Yu was below her. Thinking of this, Messiah immediately felt a chill in her lower body. It must be an illusion. Messiah muttered after a moment of realization. One had to know that Messiah's current vertical height was 10 meters, and the vertical jump of a Grandmaster combat was about 1.5 meters. Even if Wang Yu had a 50% jump bonus, he could only jump about 2 meters at most. He was still far from the 10 meters, so Messiah still felt that she was safe. However, at this moment, Messiah suddenly heard the sound of wind behind her. Turning around, she saw Wang Yu appear behind her. Martial artists also know how to fly. This was Messiah's first thought. At the same time, Messiah subconsciously moved to the side, but before Messiah could float half a meter, Wang Yu suddenly stretched out his hand in midair and directly wrapped his hands around Messiah's neck. Maija was shocked and struggled to break free. Wang Yu coiled her legs and used the old tree roots to hang on Maija's waist. Then, she contracted her limbs and exerted force from her waist. The two of them flipped in midair and fell to the ground, head down and feet up. After turning upside down, Messiah completely lost her balance. Wang Yu faintly said in Messiah's ear, "It's fun to fly in the sky, right? I'll bring you to play something more fun." As they spoke, the two of them landed. Wang Yu loosened his limbs and gently pushed Messiah, then did a backflip and landed smoothly. Messiah didn't have Wang Yu's ability. With a loud bang, Messiah's head fell to the ground. For someone who fell head first, 10 meters was definitely high enough. Even for a boss like Messiah, when her head hit the ground, her HP plummeted by 30,000. At the same time, she was stunned. Wang Yu knew that flying bosses were difficult to deal with. After landing, he didn't stop at all. With both legs, he leaped toward Messiah. While Messiah was still stunned, Wang Yu's Thunder Stomp landed on her head, and her HP plummeted by 20,000 again. Messiah had a total of 500,000 HP, but Wang Yu took out 10% of her HP in just 2 moves. If she wasn't the person involved, she wouldn't dare to believe it. After Wang Yu stepped on Messiah's head, he didn't stop. The moment Messiah's stun effect disappeared, Wang Yu's Eagle Stomp followed up. All 3 kicks landed on the back of Messiah's head. Once again, Messiah fell face first. Wang Yu used his knee to press down on Messiah's neck. Just like before, he grabbed Messiah's hair and wanted to beat her up. Messiah, who was in the combat stage, wasn't a weakling who was in the economic stage. "Damn it," Messiah shouted gloomily. She struggled to wave her hand and pushed Wang Yu to the side. Chapter 5:27. Wang Yu's neck lock wasn't a system skill, and its priority was just a normal attack. Naturally, Wang Yu couldn't suppress it. After Messiah flung Wang Yu away, she got up and quickly retreated. When she met Wang Yu, who was chasing after her, she quickly opened up a distance between them. She then drew her bow and knocked an arrow. Immediately, a dozen green arrows flew towards Wang Yu in 3 rows. Arrow Array, a high-level skill of marksman, instantly shoots 3 rows of arrows to attack the target. The arrow array has a knockback effect. From the fact that Messiah had released the array arrows without hesitation, it could be seen that this fellow was also a seasoned fighter. Messiah didn't hope to kill Wang Yu with this skill. She only hoped to force Wang Yu back. As long as Wang Yu was forced back, Messiah would have a chance to fly again. Then, Messiah would be prepared. Even if she couldn't kill Wang Yu wouldn't be able to touch her. Of course, Wang Yu also realized this. He definitely wouldn't give Messiah a chance to retreat. So when he saw the arrow array flying towards him, he didn't dodge. Instead, he rushed towards it. When the arrow array was about to hit him, Wang Yu changed his weapon to a pole. He pushed off the ground and jumped above the arrow array. He wants to jump over? Messiah was stunned. The range of the 3-arrow array was 8 meters. Could this kid jump that far? Naturally, Wang Yu's jumping ability couldn't reach that far. However, with the help of the pole vault, he could still jump 3 to 5 meters. When his body was about to fall, Wang Yu activated Burst Fist and jumped 5 meters directly above Messiah. Messiah was shocked. She hurriedly drew her bow with her left hand and pulled the bowstring with her right hand. She wanted to use the bowstring to strangle Wang Yu. Wang Yu used Eagle Step in the air and used his other leg to kick Messiah's face. Messiah was kicked back 2 steps. At this time, Wang Yu used the second part of Eagle Step to the ground. He pushed his left hand, and a chi wave flew towards Messiah. At this time, Messiah recovered. She waved her hands, and a green translucent wind shield bounced off Wang Yu's chi wave. At the same time, Wang Yu flashed and shouted, "Watch my legs!" Messiah was shocked and hurriedly used the wind shield in her hands to protect her face. Wang Yu chuckled and reached out with both hands. He grabbed Messiah's collar with one hand and grabbed the back of Messiah's waist with the other. With a king carries the cauldron version of a knee strike and a grappling throw, Messiah once again fell to the ground. Messiah looked at the sky, her eyes filled with bewilderment. Collapsing punch, chi wave, knee strike, and eagle stomp. These 4 skills were just the most basic moves of a grandmaster of combat. Wang Yu had so many tricks up her sleeves that it made Messiah gasp in awe. In fact, what Messiah didn't know was that if it weren't for the system skills, Wang Yu's normal attacks would be even scarier. Messiah fell to the ground. Wang Yu's left hand formed a claw and his right hand formed a fist. He bent his waist and punched the ground. Messiah lay on the ground and clasped her hands together. She chanted, "Tornado, release." As Messiah chanted, 3 tornadoes appeared in front of Messiah and flew towards Wang Yu in a fan shape. Tornado was a high-level wind spell. It was the prerequisite for the ultimate wind spell, Wind Dragon Spin. Not only did it have strong attack power and a long range, it also had a knockback effect. Wherever it passed, it could even destroy objects. As expected of a wind spirit, even high-level spells didn't need to be channeled. Wang Yu was only a foot away from Messiah. Faced with 3 1-meter-wide tornadoes, there was no way he could dodge them. He was immediately blown into the sky by the tornadoes. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Messiah flipped over and got up. She once again took out her bow and shot at Wang Yu. Wang Yu, who was sent flying, couldn't complete quick recover. He could only twist his body left and right to dodge Messiah's arrows. It was unknown if Messiah's aim wasn't good enough or if Wang Yu's twisting was effective. Out of the 3 arrows Messiah shot, 2 missed. Gulp. Messiah looked at Wang Yu in the sky and gulped, secretly wiping the sweat on her forehead. In all her 800 years of life, Messiah had never seen such a troublesome guy. His attributes were obviously not high, but he made her feel helpless. Just a moment ago, he had been in a passive state. But now, with his astonishing skills, he had quickly turned the tables, forcing Messiah, an epic boss, into a bitter struggle. It seems that this kid didn't rely on luck to pass Arceus's trial. No wonder he said that he loved fighting. Martial artists really aren't easy to deal with, Messiah muttered inwardly. Her hands didn't stop moving. Arrows flew towards Wang Yu one after another. Although Wang Yu was able to dodge a few of them, Messia's firing rate was too fast. After a few hits, Wang Yu's HP was reduced to 0. "You're dead." Messia roared when she saw this scene. She pulled her bowstring and shot a barrage of arrows. Her roar was filled with the joy of getting her revenge. "You still have a long way to go." When Wang Yu felt Messia's killing intent in midair, he similarly roared. His internal energy surged, and a blue light instantly dispelled the knockback status. After dispelling the knockback status, Wang Yu's strengthened thunder stomp landed on the ground, forcing Messia to take a few steps back. Following which, Wang Yu leaped up. As Messia retreated, she crossed her hands and chanted again, "Tornado, release." 3 tornadoes flew towards Wang Yu once more. Tornado's trajectory wasn't fast. Seeing the tornado flying towards him, Wang Yu hurriedly braked and jumped back a few times to increase the distance between him and the tornado. A gap appeared between the 3 tornadoes. Wang Yu dodged to the side, just in time to avoid the wind dragon flying towards him. However, Messia's tornadoes did not seem to have cooled down. When she saw Wang Yu dodge, she casually waved her hand, and 3 more tornadoes flew towards Wang Yu. Just as Wang Yu closed the distance between them, he was forced to take a few steps back to avoid the tornadoes. "Hee, you won't be able to come over." When Messia saw that a skill was finally effective against Wang Yu, she laughed and sped up the frequency of her spells. Each tornado had a diameter of 1 meter, and the 3 tornadoes had a diameter of 3 meters. With such a range, it was even more effective than the windshield. The magic protected Messia tightly, and Wang Yu did not dare to get close. Messia was the embodiment of wind, and she had the sigh of the wind skill, which reduced her mana consumption by half. There was no cooldown for wind-type magic, and her casting speed was instantaneous. At this moment, she did not need to do anything else. Messia did not believe that with so many tornadoes, none of them would be able to hit Wang Yu. Faced with Messia's scoundrel fighting style, Wang Yu was truly exhausted. With so many tornadoes, he would be sent flying the moment he touched one. At that time, he would be in a passive position again. Hence, Wang Yu did not dare to get too close to Messia. He could only dodge around 2 meters away from Messia. Although internal breath could remove control effects, this skill had a very long cooldown. Even if he could use it again, he would only be able to remove the effects of 1 tornado. However, with Messia's attack speed, he would need to remove at least 2 tornadoes. If he wanted to get close to Messia, he would need to use a silent skill. Otherwise, with Messia's 500,000 mana, she could cast the tornadoes until the end of time. Chapter 528. Silence was a moderately sized control skill. It wasn't very effective against physical damage professions, but it was a disaster for magic professions. Of course, the more stable a control skill was, the better it was. However, it was quite rare for a control skill to be so unstable. Currently, other than the priest's sacred fire, Wang Yu had only seen exquisite dreams, shadow bind arrow. The Grandmaster of Combat skill tree didn't have a silence skill. In order to silence Meisha, the only way for Wang Yu to do so was to stun her. Stun was a type of strong crowd control skill that also had a muting effect. Of course, compared to professional muting skills, the duration of the stun effect was much shorter. However, Wang Yu couldn't get close to Meisha at all, so he couldn't stun her at all. This was quite embarrassing. How can I stun her? Wang Yu pondered as he dodged. Seeing that Wang Yu only had the strength to dodge now, Messiah's gloomy mood from being suppressed earlier had eased. She couldn't help but feel proud of herself, and her chanting voice was especially loud. "Tornado, release! Release! Release!" Meisha's chanting gave Wang Yu a headache, and he couldn't help but scold. "Ungentlemanly elf, if you make any more noise, I'll block your mouth." Saying this, Wang Yu's mind suddenly lit up. Meow. I've been thinking about how to stun Meisha, but I forgot that the essence of silence skill was to block her mouth. Meisha heard Wang Yu's threat, and after throwing out 3 tornadoes, she laughed and said, "You can't even get close to me. How can you block me?" Before Meisha could finish her sentence, she suddenly saw a long object pass through the tornadoes. Meisha couldn't dodge in time and was directly stabbed into her mouth. Meisha's chanting stopped, and the tornadoes stopped as well. Wang Yu's body flashed with a blue light as he passed through the whirlwind and arrived in front of Meisha in an instant along the long rod. His left hand struck Meisha's waist with a fierce tiger strike, while his right hand lifted the rod that was stuck in Meisha's mouth. Meisha whimpered as she was pressed to the ground. "Hey, it's blocked." Wang Yu held the rod with both hands and stuck it in Meisha's mouth to prevent her from chanting. He stepped on Meisha's chest with one foot and kicked his head with the other. The pitiful Meisha was, after all, an epic boss. Yet, she was brutally tortured by Wang Yu. She did not even get a chance to cry out as she transformed into a ball of white light and was sent out of the battlefield. System notification. Perfect completion. You have obtained the title Heart of the Strong. Heart of the Strong. Attack and defense increased by 20%. System notice. You have obtained 3 titles. Higher, faster, stronger. Do you wish to assimilate them? Fuse. Wasn't that obvious? Wasn't he putting in so much effort just for this title? System notification. Fusion complete. You have obtained the title Son of Wind. Son of Wind. Jump plus 50%. Movement speed plus 50%. Attack defense plus 20%. This title wasn't bad. Although it didn't increase the attributes of the previous 3 titles, it gathered all the attributes of the 3 titles into one. Moreover, the movement speed of Running with the Wind was limited to non-combat situations. After fusing the title, there was no such restriction. As expected of a title that was only given by a level 60 exclusive mount quest. Just looking at the attributes, it definitely surpassed any title that Wang Yu had seen before. After the title fusion was complete, the system notification once again appeared. Your party has completed the trial quest. The trial will be sent out within 10 seconds. The scene flashed, and Wang Yu was sent out. Exquisite Dream was angrily looking at Meisha, her mouth cursing. From the shape of her mouth, it seemed like she was cursing, "Meisha doesn't have a D*CK," or something like that. This girl's curses were really meticulous. Take this. Wang Yu took out the title stone and threw it to Exquisite Dream. Exquisite Dream received it and looked at it, her eyes filled with joy. Wang Yu pointed at Meisha and said, "He told me to give it to you." "Oomph. At least you know what's good for you." Exquisite Dream fiercely glared at Meisha. Meisha did not buy Wang Yu's actions. She still had an expression of "stay away from me" on her face. This was also reasonable. People would hate it if someone interrupted them, let alone someone who actually interrupted them. I've completed the trial. Wang Yu did not care about Meisha's attitude. Completing the quest and taking the reward was something that should be done. Wang Yu was not afraid of Meisha causing trouble. Meisha casually took out a badge and threw it to Wang Yu. Her face was cold, and she did not say a word. System notification. You have obtained the Hurricane Badge. Elven City Honor plus 50. Hurricane Badge. Wind Attack plus 20. Class. General. Item description. Only warriors who are recognized by the Wind Elf Meisha have the chance to obtain this badge. System notification. You have completed the hidden side quest, Thunder and Lightning. You have obtained the special badge, Power of Wind and Lightning. You have fulfilled the requirements to unlock your exclusive mount. Please go to the instructor to unlock it. After the system notification ended, the Hurricane Badge in Wang Yu's hand and the Thunder Badge on his chest disappeared. In their place was a special badge that was green with sparks of lightning. The design of this badge was very nice. The light flowing was similar to the martial arts class badge. The visual animation was also dynamic. Power of Wind and Lightning. Wind Attack plus 20. Lightning Attack plus 20. Skill. Wind and Lightning Rage. Infuses the power of wind and lightning into the user's body. Within 20 seconds, the user's strength will be greatly increased. Attacks will have special effects. Cooldown, 24 hours. Class requirement, Grandmaster of Combat. Bound player, Iron Ox. Cannot be unbound. Item description, Wind and lightning are the first elements of ancient times. They contain endless power. Only the strongest warriors can equip them. A badge that boosts two attributes. Other than the word exquisite wouldn't be enough to describe this badge. In particular, the skill Wind and Lightning Rage was practically tailor-made for Wang Yu. Apart from the skill, the most important attribute that affected the judgment between classes was strength. As a grandmaster of combat, Wang Yu was often at a disadvantage when it came to strength. He was born with divine strength in real life, but he was always suppressed in the game. This kind of suffocating feeling was hard to understand. This was great. Although he could only enjoy it for 20 seconds in 24 hours, it was much better than giving up in judgment. Happily patting the badge on his chest, Wang Yu couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He casually kicked the silly Exquisite Dream beside him and asked, "What are you so happy about?" Exquisite Dream displayed the title Son of Wind and said, "See this? The attributes of this title are simply overpowered. My spring has finally come. Oh." After seeing the exquisite attributes of Wind and Lightning Rage, Wang Yu's heart couldn't even feel a ripple when he looked at the Son of Wind title. Then continue. "I'll go back first." Wang Yu waved goodbye to Exquisite Dream. "Where are you going?" "Yu Huicheng. Come, let's go together." Exquisite Dream hurriedly followed. Chapter 529. What are you going to do? Wang Yu didn't understand. As an archer, Elven City was clearly this girl's base camp. Exquisite Dream said, "I'm going with you to take a look. I'll also take a look at that group of animals." Wang Yu fiercely slapped himself in the face and cursed inwardly. "Who told you to have such a cheap mouth? If you want to go, then go. Why did you say hello? You're such a follower. What? I'm in a hurry to follow you, but you don't look happy." "What do you mean?" Exquisite Dream said unhappily. "It would be strange if I was happy." Wang Yu curled his lips and said, "I'm telling you, when the time comes, you better watch your words. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Linglong Meng's way of speaking was too boorish. Although Wang Yu was not used to it, she could still accept it after a long time. However, if Mu Zixin were to hear words like pulling up your pants and not recognizing me, wouldn't she go crazy? With the Chuanjin group of animals' ability to stir up trouble, even if Mu Zixin couldn't hear it, they could find a chance to let her hear it. "TSK, your legs and mouth are with me. You can go whenever you want and say whatever you want. Why do you care what I do?" Exquisite Meng said, leaving Wang Yu in the cold. Wang Yu, this woman really made people feel helpless. He wasn't a city lord and couldn't restrict people from entering the city. With a follower, Wang Yu returned to Yu Huicheng and found Old Man Hermit. Hermit saw that Exquisite Dream also had the title Son of the Wind above her head and looked at her in surprise. He then asked in surprise, "Shadow Controller? What shit?" Wang Yu was stunned. "Shadow Controller." Linglong Meng carelessly said, "Old man has a good eye. Not bad, not bad. But you're not a fighter hidden profession, so you can't receive missions from me." Hermit said. After listening to Hermit's words, Wang Yu asked with interest, "Do all the hidden professions in the combat department have to look for you to receive their quest rewards?" "That's not it. Don't you understand the principle of proximity? As long as you have a hidden class, you can head to the hidden class NPC instructors in the nearest main city to receive exclusive quests. Otherwise, you'll have to travel tens of thousands of miles just to receive a quest." After Hermit finished his explanation, he said disdainfully, "How could we be in cahoots with that kind of game?" Wang Yu said, "Yep, you guys don't scam cards, only money." "Ahem. All right, let's not talk about this. Have you completed the mission?" Hermit coughed awkwardly and changed the topic. "It's done." Wang Yu revealed the title of Son of Wind. "As expected of my student. Well done." Hermit smiled as he sent a ray of light into Wang Yu's body. System notification. You have completed. Obtained reward. Exclusive mount system. Following the system notification, an exclusive mount column appeared on Wang Yu's mount column in the most eye-catching position. It said, "Exclusive mount not equipped." "All right, Scram." After opening the exclusive mount column, Hermit waved his hand to chase Wang Yu away. Wang Yu got up and was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something. He hurriedly turned around and asked, "What about my Qigong?" "Ugh, you're still thinking about it?" "Nonsense. What do you think?" Wang Yu was furious. They were already so familiar with each other, but Old Man Hermit was still like this. If he could scam him, then he would scam him. Fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, the next time he came to look for this guy, he would definitely not acknowledge it. In the words of an NPC, this is something that we scammed with our own abilities. Why should we return it to you? Fine, fine, fine. Here. Hermit took out a green book and said, "I was just joking with you. Look at how stingy you are. Would I scam your reward?" TSK. Wang Yu took the Qigong and snorted in disdain. With an NPC's character, scamming a reward was a small matter. He equipped the Qigong to the exclusive mount column, and the attributes of the Qigong were displayed. Riding Wind, rare item. Qigong, Riding Wind. Movement speed increased by 300%. Costs 2 Qigong points per second. Riding Wind. Under the Riding Wind state, the user can jump 4 times at an astonishing speed. Each jump is 200% of a user's highest jump height. Costs 20 Qigong points per jump. Costs 2 Qigong points per second. Leaping Roofs and Vaulting Walls, a skill exclusive to the hidden profession Cloud Treader and martial arts scholars. When in the state of Wind Rider, the user can hang and climb obstacles in the scenery. Hanging consumes 1 point of lightness skill per second. Exclusive Mount does not dismount during battle. Exclusive to Grandmasters of Combat. Can use all skills under the Riding Wind state. Riding Wind Strike, Mount skill, deals a fatal blow to the enemy while moving at high speed. Costs 500 MP cooldown time, 50 seconds. Force of Wind and Thunder. Under the effect of the badge, the Qigong points cost is halved. Qigong points. The cost of the Grandmaster of Combat's Qigong state. Current Qigong points are 1,200. Increases by 30 Qigong points per level. Originally, Wang Yu was quite satisfied with the attributes of the Qigong, but the Qigong points made Wang Yu a little confused. A normal mount's movement speed was increased by 200%, and exclusive mounts increased by 300%. These attributes were all the same. The only difference was that the Qigong actually had a cost. The exclusive mounts of other professions didn't have this feature. 1,200 Qigong points could only run for 10 minutes. With the force of wind and thunder, it could only run for 20 minutes at most. In the map of Rebirth, a mere 20 minutes with 300% movement speed couldn't even finish running a main city's jungle. In comparison, the Qigong points were simply a trap for Grandmasters of Combat. However, after looking at the attributes under Qigong, Wang Yu also understood why there was a cost for Qigong. Firstly, the exclusive mounts of other professions were external forces. Qigong was the player's own running speed, so it was normal that they couldn't outrun animals. Secondly, the Riding Wind attribute wasn't just a simple jump. A normal Grandmaster of Combat's jumping ability was 5 meters, but Wang Yu's jumping ability was a full 3 meters with the help of his equipment and title. Under the Riding Wind state, it was 6 meters. Quadruple jump would be a full 24 meters. In addition to leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls, a Grandmaster of Combat would definitely be able to fly across most scenes in the game with a limited Qigong points. At the same speed, the difference between flying and walking was not just a little bit. Taking the city as an example, a Grandmaster of Combat with Qigong could just jump over the city wall, while other professions would have to take a detour. From this point, it was enough to see the advantage of Qigong. Also, while other classes could only use mount skills when mounted, Grandmasters of Combat could use all skills other than mount skills. Although it was not beneficial to use many skills if the speed was too high, it was definitely one of the advantages of Qigong. Chapter 530. As Wang Yu was admiring his Qigong attributes, the system sent another notification. Your emblem, Wind and Thunder Power, can activate a Qigong quest. Please ask your class instructor for clues. Emblem? A Qigong quest? Wang Yu was stunned. Didn't he already have a Qigong quest? Why would there be a Qigong quest? Does it have something to do with the emblem? Thinking up to this point, Wang Yu took off the emblem and handed it to Hermit, asking, "Teacher, do you recognize this item?" Hermit squinted his eyes as he looked at the emblem. Surprise flashed in his eyes as he extended his hand, saying, "Let me see. Just look at it," Wang Yu said cautiously. Right now, he didn't dare to casually hand over an item to an NPC. If he handed it over, he definitely wouldn't be able to get it back. How stingy. Do you think I'd steal something that's bound to you? Hurry up and hand it over. Saying so, Hermit extended his hand to grab it. With Hermit's full strength, his attack speed was so fast that a level 40 weakling like Wang Yu couldn't dodge. Hermit immediately snatched the emblem away. Sure enough, it's wind and thunder power. You completed the Titan and Elf trials? Hermit asked excitedly. MHM. Wang Yu nodded. Good. Hermit said excitedly. After so many years, another peerless genius has finally appeared. It seems that you really are worthy of the title of martial scholar. Of course, Wang Yu said without the slightest hint of modesty. If it were any other aspect, Wang Yu would definitely be modest. However, when it came to martial arts, Wang Yu had absolute confidence and pride. If he couldn't be considered a martial scholar, then others definitely couldn't be. Actually, your Qigong is exclusive to martial scholars. Currently, it's only an incomplete version, Hermit said. After hearing the scripture Hermit's explanation, Wang Yu realized that the Qigong he was equipped with was actually passed down by the legendary martial god. Apart from riding the wind, the other half of the Qigong was called controlling thunder. As grandmasters of combat were born without the advantage of weapons, the class had high requirements for its inheritors, especially the most important Qigong. The requirements were even stricter. To learn an exclusive Qigong, one must be able to control wind and thunder rider. People with this kind of aptitude were hard to come by in 1,000 years. Even if they met one, they would not waste their energy on such a hopeless profession. In order to let this profession be passed down, the war god divided Qigong into two parts, wind riding and thunder riding. Compared to the power of lightning, the power of wind was easier to control. Therefore, only riding wind was passed down. As for controlling thunder, it had long disappeared with the disappearance of the martial god. I can't believe that I'll be able to see someone who can control the force of wind and lightning in my lifetime. Hermit's eyes were brimming with tears. Since you're so excited, is there a reward? Wang Yu asked. Hearing Wang Yu ask for a reward, Hermit immediately returned to his normal expression and said, "There's no reward, but there's a quest. System notification. You have activated Qigong Quest, Wind Rider. Do you accept?" Is there a time limit for this quest? Wang Yu asked after some hesitation. No. Hermit shook his head. Is there a penalty for failure? No. Hermit continued to shake his head. All right, then I'll accept it. Wang Yu clicked accept. System notification. You have accepted Qigong Quest, Wind Rider. Find the legendary Qigong, Thunder Rider. Quest reward. Martial Scholar's exclusive Qigong. That's it. Any clues? Wang Yu looked at the quest panel and asked blankly. There wasn't even a hint or a location. How could it be called a quest? He was completely clueless. The world of rebirth was so big. Without clues, it would be difficult to find a person, let alone an item, that couldn't speak. Hermit said irresponsibly, "If there are clues, then you don't have to look for it. Come find me when you find it." Wang Yu was speechless. He closed the quest panel. Anyway, Wind Rider was enough. As for the exclusive Qigong, he would leave it for now. It was all up to luck when he found it. If he really tried to find it, he probably wouldn't find it in his entire life. After leaving the alley, Wang Yu shouted in the Chuanjin channel, "Where are you guys?" "Drinking at the tavern." Everyone answered in unison. Usually at this time, the Chuanjin members would have finished clearing their daily dungeons and quests. It wasn't a good time to level up, so everyone would run to the tavern to get to know each other. Of course, these bastards were definitely not trying to get to know each other. In any case, before Yang Na entered Chuanjin, they rarely met up. "What about you? Are you done with the quest?" Wu Ji asked. "I'm done. I even brought a friend with me. Wang Yu said, a man or a woman? To place one's pride, and the others asked anxiously. In the past, there were only men in Xuanzhen. Ever since Wang Yu joined Xuanzhen, the ratio of men to women in Xuanzhen had reached 3-2. Other than Mu Zixin, who was already taken, the rest were all single and beautiful. Such a godly person had long been secretly called a peach blossom baby by a group of bastards. Wang Yu looked at the sloppy, exquisite dream beside him and said, a woman. A woman? Uncle Nyo, come quickly. Is she beautiful? To place one's pride, asked impatiently. Yes. Although exquisite dream had a personality flaw, it had to be said that she was definitely not ugly. After all, looks could be changed in the game. Yeah, long live Brother Iron Ox, old cow. Chun Xiang and Mingdu high-fived. Who? What's her name? Do I know her? At this moment, Mu Zixin, who had been lurking around for thousands of years, suddenly spoke up. The atmosphere in the channel instantly turned cold. Wife, you're here. Wang Yu wiped his sweat. It seemed that Mu Zixin wasn't busy and was peeking at the side. What? Hoping that I'm not here? Mu Zixin said in an unfriendly tone. No, this lady is called Exquisite Dream. She's an old friend of Wuji's. Wang Yu said truthfully. Oh, I'm just asking. After saying that, Mu Zixin went back into peeking mode. Little Meng? Aunt Meng. Hearing Exquisite Dream's name, to place one's pride, and Chun Xiang's expressions changed. They stared at Wuji with an unfriendly expression and said, you knew that she was coming. Why didn't you tell us? Wuji held his wine glass and smiled without saying a word. Aunt Meng? What nonsense are you talking about? Kids should watch less unhealthy things. Wang Yu lectured. About that, I still have a mission. I'll be leaving first. Chun Xiang hurriedly said. Mingdu added, me too. There's a beauty asking me to patrol the streets. You guys chat first. I'm going with Brother Chun to do a mission. To place one's pride also stood up. This old man's mission is a solo mission. Chun Xiang, your grandpa. Bai Ming Yoyu, Yin Lao Air, and the other rookies were confused. They wondered who this person was to actually scare the 3 famous troublemakers of Xuanzhen to this extent. Wait a bit. I'm already at the door. After saying that, Wang Yu pushed open the door and walked into the tavern. Seeing the lady behind Wang Yu, Chun Xiang and the other 2 were so scared that they fell on their chairs. Chapter 531. Oh, you're all here. Exquisite Dream saw Wuji and the rest the moment she entered. Wuji waved his hand at Exquisite Dream. You're here. Yes. Linglong Meng swaggered over and shouted, Dachshund, why are you hiding under the table? Let me pet your little chick, see if it's grown up. Ming, you're getting uglier and uglier. I like it when you're this ugly. The 3's faces turned ashen. The others hurriedly stood up and hid to the side to watch. Their faces were filled with curiosity toward Exquisite Dream. Ming Jian, Dao Xue, and Bao San quietly explained to the confused newcomers. This person is famous for being a female hooligan. These 3 fellows have been ruined by her. When the 2 of them explained, they deliberately emphasized the word ruined to make people's imagination run wild. However, from the 3's horrified behavior, the meaning of the 2 words was definitely deeper than the literal meaning. Not bad. You're quite a deterrent. Wang Yu followed behind Exquisite Dream and gave her a thumbs up. Chun Xiang and the other 2 were either wretched, despicable, or unruly little brats. The 3 of them were usually the most mischievous. Not to mention others. Even experts like Wang Yu, who had deterrence power, did not receive much respect from them. Seeing Linglong Meng being so frightened at this moment, Wang Yu was extremely shocked. Look at what you're saying. It's a meeting between old friends. It's only right to be more enthusiastic. Exquisite Dream said as she walked to the table, scaring Mingdu and the other 2 into a corner, causing them to shiver. At this time, Wuji tried to smooth things over. All right, don't scare them. Oomph. Exquisite Dream glanced at Wuji and coldly snorted, ignoring Mingdu and the other 2. Let me formally introduce you. This is Exquisite Dream, an old friend of Xuanzhen. Wuji pointed at Exquisite Dream and introduced her to the newcomers and Wang Yu. However, her IQ is a little low, so she has never passed the Chuanjin test. Your sister, Linglong Meng, glared at Wuji. Well, it's not that high. Her attribute points are added to intelligence, Wang Yu affirmed. Even Wang Yu knew that archers needed to increase their agility, but Exquisite Dream, an experienced player, had chosen to increase her intelligence. This wasn't low intelligence, it was plain stupid. This old lady saw wrongly. Linglong Alliance tried to explain. Wuji chuckled. It's mainly to make up for your shortcomings. Exquisite Dream placed the crossbow in her hand on the table. If you want to die, just say it. Wuji tactfully kept his mouth shut. Exquisite Dream was a person who hung out with Wuji and the others before Chuanjin was established. This girl had the best relationship with the first boss of Chuanjin, Dugaling. At that time, Exquisite Dream's mechanics were decent, but due to her personality, her strength wasn't that great, so not many people knew of her. But to the Quanjin sect, this young lady was their teacher. Although Linglong Yu was a young lady, she had the air of a hoodlum. Mingdu's unreasonable behavior, Chun Xiang's wretchedness, and the Quanjin sect's bandit-like temperament were all tempered by this young lady. Of course, this girl had the air of a gangster, but her IQ wasn't that high. It was a pity that she wasn't like Chuanjin, who had developed many of her annoying traits. Besides, it wasn't a bad thing for a girl to act like a gangster in a game. When a beautiful person like Exquisite Dream acted like a gangster, others would find it cute. When an ugly person like Mingdu acted like a gangster, others would find it disgusting. After a round of introductions, the newcomers had a basic understanding of Exquisite Dream. They couldn't help but sigh. It turned out that this harmless girl was the source of Chuanjin's evil. Apart from that, Yang Na worshipped this girl. Sister Meng, how did you do it? To be able to bring out a group of evil people like Chuanjin, and even take care of the three big troublemakers. This was a godlike existence in Yang Na's heart. When Exquisite Dream saw that there was a female player in Chuanjin, her expression became even more excited. She said in an extremely wretched manner, "If there's time, we can have an in-depth discussion." Seeing his expression, everyone from the Chuanjin sect felt a chill run down their spines. Other than the adorable Yang Na, even a pure person like Wang Yu could tell how wretched Linglong Meng's so-called in-depth discussion was. Since the higher-ups were strict with their investigations, Uncle Neo didn't elaborate any further. Everyone understood what he meant. All right. Old Meng, you should calm down. She doesn't have your dirty thoughts." Wuji interrupted Exquisite Dream. "Is that so? Then how did she enter Chuanjin?" Exquisite Dream didn't understand. When everyone heard this, they realized that in the past, Chuanjin had a rule that only those with good character could enter. Wuji looked up at Wang Yu and said, "Here, you brought her in?" "Ha!" Exquisite Dream chuckled. "Speaking of which, where did you find such a treasure? You haven't seen how powerful he is." "We have," everyone in Chuanjin said in unison. "Lend me to play for 2 days?" Exquisite Dream asked again. Wuji sweated profusely. "Do you think he'll listen to me? You're such a coward." Exquisite Dream looked at Wuji with disdain. "Nonsense." Wuji ignored Exquisite Dream's mockery. Wuji had never seen a character like Wang Yu who wasn't a coward in front of him. "How about this? I'll take a loss and lend you guys to play for a few days. Hurry up and bring me to the meeting," Exquisite Dream said. Spring soaring Mingdu's expression was cold as he lightly shook his head. At the same time, he sent a private message. 100 gold, 500, F*CK. If you have the ability, then let her play us to death. System notification. Exquisite Dream has joined Chuanjin and become a member of the big family. The three of them sent a message to Wuji in unison. "What the F*CK? You're really going to let her go to the meeting?" Wang Yu said in surprise. "What? You don't want to?" Exquisite Dream moved closer to Wang Yu. Wang Yu hurriedly dodged to the other side of the table and said, "Your legs and mouth are all on you. How can I control you? However, stay away from me. Otherwise, I'll kill you." "Huh? Are you threatening me?" Exquisite Dream slammed the table. Wuji tried to dissuade her. Don't mess around. He really dares. When Exquisite Dream heard Wang Yu's words, she suddenly recalled Meisha's expression, as if she had just eaten feces after Wang Yu had threatened Meisha. Immediately, her heart trembled. Damn, this bastard's actions were vicious. He could even threaten a boss. Heartless bastard. If I knew this would happen, I would have let little Lu listen to the spring rain pour dirty water on you. I wouldn't have cared. Exquisite Dream cursed. Seeing the awkward atmosphere, Wuji once again changed the topic. I heard you beat up Nian Luyuan. Yes. How did you know? Wang Yu asked curiously. Wang Yu beating up Nian Luyuan had only happened recently. At that time, the onlookers were all Nian Luyuan's fans. Wang Yu did not believe that the news had spread so quickly that even Yu Huiqing's people knew about it. Chapter 532. When Wang Yu and Nian Luyuan fought one-on-one, it was broadcasted live by the bystanders. Other cities might not know about it, but Thunderstorm City and Yu Huicheng were definitely the first to hear about it. After all, most of Wang Yu's die-hard fans were Yu Huicheng's players and Nian Luyuan's fans. In order to provoke them, put up the live video in several cities, including Yu Huicheng. Not long after the live video was put up, it quickly became the topic of conversation for many of Yu Huicheng's players. In a place with so many people like the tavern, it naturally could not be hidden from Xuanjin and the others. Who's so nosy? Why did he post it on the forum? Wang Yu couldn't help but cry out. There was a saying that sparring behind closed doors and taking in disciples. Nian Luyuan was different from ordinary players. Nian Luyuan was a martial artist, and victory or defeat was related to the reputation of the two families. Therefore, sparring between martial artists was usually done in private, and it was called challenging the school. Wang Yu's act of beating someone up and posting it on the forum was a blatant slap in the face. The Li family was also a large family. Wouldn't they explode after being humiliated like this? Even if Wang Yu wasn't afraid, it would make the Wang family seem arrogant and insensible if word got out. What? You're going to show mercy to someone like that? Exquisite Dream asked curiously. When Wang Yu and Nian Luyuan fought, Exquisite Dream was also there. She saw Nian Luyuan's actions, so she didn't think that there was anything wrong with what Wang Yu did. No, this isn't about showing mercy. Before Wang Yu could explain, Yang Na came out and explained to Exquisite Dream. What nonsense are you talking about? Why are you talking in your sleep in the middle of the day? Exquisite Dream was dumbfounded when she heard Yang Na talk about martial arts and aristocratic families. The people of the Xuanjin sect looked at Wang Yu in horror. They said, damn it, could it be that some people from a martial arts clan have come knocking on our door? In the past, these people from the Quanzhun sect were also fearless people. But ever since they got to know Wang Yu, they finally understood what it meant by, there's always someone better than you out there. Ordinary people were nothing in the eyes of people like Wang Yu. Even martial arts practitioner was so difficult to deal with. Based on what Yang Na said, Nian Luyuan was a member of a prestigious clan. Prestigious clans? From the name alone, it was clear that there were more than one or two of them. Perhaps there were at least 100 of them. This was several times more dangerous than breaking the three evils manor apart. I'm not afraid if they come knocking on our door. When the time comes, we'll just slaughter them one by one. I'm just afraid that this matter will get out of hand. Actually, our family can be considered as longtime friends with their family. Wang Yu scratched his head gloomily. I'll kill whoever comes. The Quanjin group was stunned. Only Wang Yu could say such arrogant words. They probably came knocking on our door for the sake of face, right? Asked Wuji. Of course. In our line of work, face is more important than life. Wang Yu sighed. This wasn't Wang Yu deliberately exaggerating. They were all from large clans that had been passed down for many years. They were born with a sense of mission. The honor of their clan was above everything else. It wasn't unheard of for them to sacrifice their own sons for the sake of their clan's reputation. That should be fine. Wuji let out a long sigh of relief. What? Wang Yu said in a daze. The video of Nian Luyuan being abused had been posted online. Wasn't that a huge loss of face? How could it be fine? Because watching a fish underwater will confuse right and wrong. Wuji spread his hands and said, other than those of us who are familiar with you and your fans, many people on the internet are questioning the authenticity of the video. Even if there's a video and the truth, they can still question it? Wang Yu was speechless. What do you think? Wuji glanced at Wang Yu and said, as soon as the video was released, watching a fish underwater led a bunch of Smurfs to the forum to distort the truth. They said that Nian Luyun was plotted against by you and then deliberately filmed a video to please the public. F*CK. Wang Yu was enraged. Someone F*King believe that? Although Wang Yu didn't want to publicize this matter, which young person wasn't competitive? Winning or losing was a sure thing, but in the end, he ended up with a reputation for being shameless and despicable. No one could stand it. Nian Luyun is handsome, knows how to promote, and has a lot of brainless fans. Unlike you, an expired internet celebrity is worse than a dog. Am I not handsome? You're more manly than him, Wuji said. Wang Yu was speechless for a moment. He asked again, isn't there someone else who filmed the video? Didn't they explain? There was, but watching a fish underwater put the blame on them. They said that the person who recorded the video was in cahoots with you. They were the ones who injured Nian Luyun with you, and then filmed the video, Wuji replied. F*CK. That be *TCH. Wang Yu was so angry that he almost laughed. He thought that the people from Qianjin were shameless and despicable enough, but he didn't expect there to be people who were even worse than them. Wuji said helplessly, yeah, that guy is very despicable. If it wasn't for their fierce internal strife, even we would have been in trouble. Poor Lingzi, she was tricked and even got the bad name of marriage fraud. Wang Yu was speechless again. He had heard a little about Duga Ling on the way back from Linglongmeng. For a girl, this was undoubtedly the biggest blow. Speaking of which, didn't you guys explain it back then? Nonsense. Your friend was dumped, and she was covered in dirty water. Would you go around and announce it? Mingdu said disdainfully. Wang Yu glared at Mingdu and said, that depends on who. Mingdu said, what if it's me? Post it on the forums and hire someone post it. Wang Yu said, good thing I don't have a wife. Mingdu said, giggling. TSK. Wang Yu pointed his middle finger at Mingdu and said, although that be *TCH is shameless, it saves me a lot of trouble. If I have the chance to see him again, I will kill him 100 times to take revenge for your friend. That's good, right? Do you have time now? Let's go to Heavenly Dragon City to kill a boss. Wuji asked Wang Yu. When they were in the dungeon, Wuji had tricked Dugu Jiuqiang, a flower demon boss. Dugu Jiuqiang was not a good person. If he didn't go quickly, he would definitely renege on his debt. So, when Wang Yu returned, Wuji mentioned this matter to prevent any more problems. Wang Yu looked at the time and said, tomorrow. It's getting late. I should log off. Linglongmeng looked at the time and said, what do you mean it's getting late? It's not even 6 yet. What do you know? As she spoke, Wang Yu's figure faded and she went offline. Damn, what's wrong with that guy? Linglongmeng pointed at the place where Wang Yu disappeared and cursed. 6 was the golden time of the game. To log off at this time, this person really did play the game as he pleased. Wuji spread his hands and said, he's just like that. He has to accompany his wife at night. Wife-slave, useless. Not long after Wang Yu left, the number of players in the game gradually increased. Quan Zhen and the others were about to leave when an orc player pushed open the door and walked into the tavern. He asked, is there a person called Iron Ox here? The orc's voice was not loud and was deep, but it gave off a strong feeling. Chapter 533. The orc was tall and mighty. He was half a head taller than Wang Yu, who was 1.8 meters tall. Height could be changed in the game, so people over 2 meters could be seen everywhere. Therefore, no one paid much attention to the orc's stature. The main thing was that the orc looked to be around 40 to 50 years old. He had the air of an old man, which surprised everyone. Online games were mainly targeted at young people. It wasn't as if the elderly didn't play, but people in their 40s and 50s prioritized their careers. They felt that playing games was a waste of their time. Therefore, there weren't many older players in the game. The orc had a square head and a wide mouth. His equipment was simple, and he wore a pair of old boxing gloves. His green skin and sharp fangs made him look ferocious. His fiery red hair made him look very non-mainstream. If you didn't look at his face, you wouldn't think that he was actually an uncle. Where did this all-account come from? His equipment isn't even level 10 yet. The boxing gloves were actually given to him by the system. Ming Du and to place one's pride commented as they inspected the orc's equipment. "Are you his friends? Bring him to me," the orc said as he walked to the table of the Chuanjin group and sat down. The orc's words were filled with a commanding tone that couldn't be questioned. Everyone was stunned again. If it wasn't for the fact that they had inspected the orc more than 10 times, which showed that he was a level 10 alt account, they would have thought that he was a max-level expert. "Why are you looking for him?" Wu Ji saw that the orc was old and didn't want to lose his temper, so he asked patiently. The orc said calmly, "You don't have to worry about that. Hurry up and bring him to me." His tone was still unquestionable. These guys from Chuanjin were extremely stubborn. They had played the game for a long time, but they had never met anyone who dared to speak to them in such a tone, especially when the other party was only a level 10 alt account. Moreover, it was in front of the ladies. This made them feel embarrassed. "Who do you think you are?" The young man opposite the orc, to place one's pride, was the first to jump up. He stepped on the table and punched the orc. The orc frowned and took a step back, picking up a chair beside him. Before to place one's pride could hit him, the orc smashed the chair onto to place one's pride's head. To place one's pride was directly slammed onto the table in midair. The wine glasses on the table fell to the ground. The beastman's actions shocked everyone from the Quanjin sect so much that they stood up from their seats. The orc's attack did not deal a lot of damage, only a few dozen. However, the orc's attack was ruthless, accurate, and steady. It was definitely something no one had ever seen before. The people from Chuanjin had been with Wang Yu for a long time. Naturally, their judgment was much higher than the average person's. The orc's attack was not inferior to Wang Yu's, and far surpassed evildoers' run wilds. To place one's pride was not a weakling. Moreover, his level was almost 30 levels higher than the orc's. With the difference in attributes, equipment, and skills, any level 40 expert would be an invincible existence in the level 10 novice circle. To place one's pride, however, with such a huge difference, the orc had instantly smashed place one's pride to the ground. This visual effect was simply too shocking. "You're still so hot-tempered, kid. If you were my son, I would have beaten you half to death with my temper 10 years ago." The orc nagged. To place one's pride was humiliated to the point that his face turned red. Although he had suffered a loss because he had underestimated his opponent, he could feel that this orc was not normal. To place one's pride was not afraid of losing to this orc due to the difference in levels and equipment. However, to place one's pride was still an expert. If he was defeated by a level 10 alt account, he would already become a laughingstock. If he became angry and fought a level 10 alt account alone, there would be no glory in winning. If he lost, it would be even more shameful. Would he still have any face left in the future? To place one's pride calmed down and sat back down. He mumbled in the channel, "He's an expert. Everyone laughed coldly. To place one's pride was greatly embarrassed. "It's true. If you don't believe me, why don't you give it a try?" To place one's pride had been defeated. Of course, the others would not take the initiative to embarrass themselves. Wu Ji smiled and said, "Children don't know any better. Please don't laugh at us. We don't even know who you are, so how could we casually divulge information about our friends? Don't you think so?" "Yup." The orc nodded. "That's true. This old man will not change his name." Before the orc could finish his sentence, Bao San and Yin Lao Air suddenly lifted the table and sent it flying towards the orc. The orc raised his hand and smashed the table with his Do Chi. The tavern was the most important scam scene in Rebirth. The tables, chairs, and even the windows and doors of the tavern could only be described in one word: scam. Any attack skill will be able to destroy it. The orc's fist smashed the table into pieces. "Kids, let's do a sneak attack." The orc stood up and was about to attack Wu Ji and the others when the tavern owner pounced over and grabbed the orc tightly, crying, "Pay for my table." The tavern owner had the protection of the system. If he did not pay, even a max-level player would not be able to escape if he caught him. A table in the tavern cost a few gold coins. The orc's newbie equipment obviously could not afford it, so he was held tightly by the tavern owner. Seeing that the orc was caught by the tavern owner, Wuji waved his hand and said to the others, "Let's go." Everyone smiled sinisterly and left the tavern owner under the orc's gaze. The orc flew into a rage and punched the tavern owner's head, smashing the tavern owner. Then he waved his hands and shouted, "Help! Someone is smashing the tavern." Hearing the commotion, everyone in the tavern owner was stunned. They stared at the orc without blinking. Who is this old man? Why is he so fierce? Who knows? He must be tired of living. The tavern was a property of the system and was protected by the main city guards. It was obvious what would happen to those who dared to beat up the tavern owner. The orc was so fierce that he was immediately respected as a true warrior. The next moment, 2 guards rushed in and stabbed the orc with their spears. The orc had just broken free from the tavern owner and rolled to the side to the window. Then, he jumped through the window and ran out. The 2 guards followed closely behind, creating 2 human-shaped holes in the tavern owner's wall. The tavern was in chaos. Chuanjin and the others were on the street at the moment. They were all dumbfounded when they saw the orc owner run out of the city with the 2 guards. "Damn, this old man is fierce. Yeah, he looks so similar to our Ronin. Is he a relative of his?" Mingdu said as he looked at the orc owner's burly back. To place one's pride, said disdainfully, "Relative my ass. It's most likely Nian Liuyun's family who is here to seek revenge. Wuji, if you meet such people in the future, beat them to death." To place one's pride could tell that he had a strong opinion of the orc owner. Yana looked at the orc owner's back as he ran on the street and muttered to herself, "Huh? Why does his back look so familiar? Is he really here for revenge?" You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.